This is an official meeting of the Livingston Parish Council. Today being November the 30th, 2023, 6 o'clock p.m. All public notices have been sent out. And so I'll hereby declare this meeting open. To get started, if you don't mind, I've asked for a prayer. This is my turn to be in charge of the prayer, and I've asked someone who's recently just went through something that I think most parents or no parents should have to go through. And I'd like to ask Mr. Brian Clemens, if you would, come to the podium and lead us in the prayer.
Heavenly Father, I know you're listening to us right now because you always are. Father, I know you're watching us right now because you always are. Father, all the glory and the power and the wisdom is yours. All the glory is yours and yours alone. I ask you that you use your power by put your hand on Livingston Parish. Do with us as you will, Father. And we ask that you lend us some of your wisdom tonight as we try to govern ourselves. And we ask that everything we do be done in your sight, within your hearing, and within your will. Bless us, I ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Mr. Chuck Riley, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir. I don't know, Ms. Raven or Ms. Angie, would you call the roll to make sure we have a quorum here tonight?
Yes, Mr. King. Here. Mr. Talbert. Here. Mr. Garlinghouse. Here. Mr. Delat. Here. Mr. Wascom.
Here.
Mr. Mack.
Here.
Ms. Sandifer. Here. Mr. Ord.
Here.
Mr. McMorris.
Here.
All present.
All right, we have a quorum. I'm just going to share a mic, that's fine, okay. Real quick, just check your cell phones and make sure they don't go off too loud. Also, any specific item agenda that comes up, and if you have something to say, please raise your hand. We'll call on you. Try to limit your conversations to 3 minutes and then not repeat someone else if they've come before you, just for efficiency. Let's get started with number 8. This is a notice of consideration of action regarding the calling of an election on April 27, 2024 for the renewal of the levy of an existing ad valorem tax for fire protection district number 5 of the parish of Livingston, state of Louisiana. Mr. Ryan, are you here this evening? He is not. So it's my understanding that, again, this is not for any action. This is just for an information. Really, there can and should be no discussion regarding this particular item, just for a notice of consideration of action regarding the calling of election on April 27th, 2024. So with that being done, I'll move on to number 9. I believe it's going to be about the same thing. Notice of consideration of an action regarding the calling of an election on April 27th, 24 for the renewal of the levy of an existing ad valorem tax for Recreation District number 2 of Livingston Parish. I believe this is in Watson, if I'm not mistaken. Correct? Yeah. And Louisiana, and Mr. Ryan, again, had this put on there as far as to move forward. Again, no action would be taken. It's just a public service announcement for to be held April 27. Item 10 is adopt a resolution.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Talbot.
This item is on here. Over the next 2 meetings, are we going to call for this election?
You know,
which election are we talking about?
he's talking about the recreation. I think this right here says that it will be, this is the notice, so maybe this is the public notice that will actually be the call, I would imagine.
The council's got to put it on the ballot. So I just want to be sure that I just want to know why the call's coming out now. I want to know if the action is going to be in the next 2 meetings to put it on the ballot.
Well, I haven't heard from Jim, but if there's something that needs to be done, we have time to have it on the next in December to have it on there.
I guess my point is, the people just voted this tax down. Just voted it down. The election before last, the general election before the runoff.
Correct.
It was voted down.
Correct.
And here we are, the paper, the ink's not dry good, and we having a call to put it back on the ballot. I mean, I think the people spoke. I think that if it needs to get put on the ballot, it needs to wait and get put on the ballot at a later date. But the call to come back right now at the end of November, after it was just defeated in October, seems to be kind of ridiculous at this point in time.
So we're taking no action on it tonight, and so
I just want to be sure it doesn't come up in the next 2 meetings to go back on.
well, it may, and if it does, you'll have a chance to vote on it. Item 10, resolution to amend LPR number 23-283 to merge precincts 28A and 238B. Is Mr. Andrews here? I'm sorry, okay. Precincts 28A and 28B, that's the two that it's merging, correct? And this was a clerical error, I believe, that we're just... And we, so a motion to resolution to amend that to say 28A and 28B would be in order.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Scooter King. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Jeff Ard. Any more discussion? You want to call for the vote, Miss Angie?
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Talbert?
Yes.
Mr. Garlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. Delat?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer? Yes. Mr. Ord?
Yes.
Mr. McMorris?
Just Tracy's not computers.
It's mine.
Doesn't seem to be working. So just if you would record his vote orally as well.
So we're not going to use the computers?
Well, we can just put
And
his
just-
in. Put his in.
I'll speak loud.
Just put his in manually.
Yeah, just put it in.
Let's see. That's all right, Tracy. We'll muddle through this. Item 11, adoption of minutes. We have October 26, 2023, and November the 9th, 2023. Those are all completed, I believe, aren't they, Angie?
Email.
Do y'all want to move forward with adopt these minutes, or is there anyone who wants to look over these minutes anymore, or y'all feel good with it the way they are? Motion by Mr. Garlinghouse to approve the minutes from October 26, 2023 and November 9th, 2023. Second by Mr. King. Any discussion? You want to call for the vote, Miss Angie?
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Talbert?
Yes.
Mr. Garlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. Delat?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Mack? Ms. Sandifer? Yes. Ms. Sandifer? Yes. Mr. Ord?
Yes.
Mr. McMorris?
Okay, item 13 is adopt a resolution to approve a tax exemption application for Delta Treatment Systems. This is Mr. David Bennett here? Oh, yeah. Actually, but yes. You want to tell us real quick, David, introduce yourself and name and address, and tell us, if you would.
Sure. David Bennett, President of the Livingston Economic Development Council, address 23800 Old Scenic Highway, Zachary, Louisiana. We're here to present a resolution for approval for Delta Treatment to participate in the Industrial Tax Exemption Program. It's through a state program, but it is up to an 80% property tax abatement for manufacturers' new investments only for a 5-year period with a 5-year renewal. This is a state program. Again, we've done these in the past, and your role is based on a governor's executive order back in 2016 requiring local approval from the local governing entities. So Delta is, their project scope is a $4.7 million investment in a 30,000 square foot facility in Walker. They will maintain 13 existing jobs and add 3 new jobs, which is about a 25% increase to their existing employment. So they went through the steps required of them. They filed an advance notification with the state Louisiana Department of Economic Development on March 2nd, 2023. They filed a timely application for the industrial tax exemption participation with the Board of Commerce and Industry, which oversees this incentive, on October 25th, 2023. And pursuant to the executive order of 2016, it requires approval or denial from this body. I'm happy to go through any of the details. You have the project analysis. I'll try to answer any questions, and the company as well as their representative is here as well.
You're not recognized.
We don't have one.
You recognize?
Just 1 second, real quick, Mr. Tower, I'll call you in just a second. Ray, you had a question?
Yes, sir. Mr. Bennett, how much was the tax break for?
The percentage of the total amounts?
Total.
The total amounts. The amounts for the 10-year tax abatement is $457,000 over 10 years, total.
Okay. And you said 3 new jobs?
3 new jobs, correct.
Okay. Have you got this, have you presented to the school board and the sheriff's department yet?
Not to the school board. no.
Okay.
I think the sheriff has signed off on this, correct?
It's my understanding that,
Okay.
yes.
And the town of Walker, or city of Walker, excuse me,
Okay.
they're on board with it, I
It's
believe.
upcoming.
That's
They're-
upcoming as well?
I'm going to make a motion to accept it because it's right here. It's a local homegrown business, and sometimes it doesn't seem like we're getting a lot for our tax dollars. But this is a guy that started a long time ago in our community, and he deserves our community to help. And I'm going to make that motion. We give him the tax break.
I'd like to second it.
We had a motion by Mr. Delat to approve it, seconded by Mr. Mack. Did you want to have any more questions, Mr. Talbot?
I was just looking for the analysis that they normally give us with the monies.
It's coming to you right now.
So we're going to collect local sales tax. Is that the 62,000 a year, is that on construction? And then this is the local property tax. Okay, are they going to generate any additional sales tax revenue within the deal or not?
They like put that into our analysis. We just look, when we're using this, it's very conservative for a reason, and we want it to be strictly directly related to the capital investment in the project. Ongoing sales tax are not estimated, though we expect there to be some.
And I think over 20 years, it was over 500,000.
Correct.
So it's you know, and
I'd like to make a comment.
I'm really, I've always been a proponent of encouraging businesses to expand. So this, I mean, we've always supported ITEP programs, and you know, anytime a business owner takes a chance, I think it's fantastic. And Mr. Glatt, you had a...
Yeah, we voted for tax breaks for people that didn't even create a job and took the money to Japan. I was one of those that voted no. This money is here. It's here in Livingston
Yeah,
Parish.
it's
This is a tax break that's needed.
So we have a motion by Mr. Delat, seconded by Mr. Shane Mack. Is there any other discussion? You want to call for the vote, Ms. Sandy?
Ms. Angie?
I mean, Ms. Angie, please forgive me.
Mr. Keane?
Yes.
Mr. Talbert?
Yes.
Mr. Garlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. Delat?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer?
Yes.
Mr. Ord?
Yes.
Mr. McMorris?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Bennett, thank you so much for taking time out the evening, and thank you for your work for Livingston Parish economic development. I really
For
appreciate
supporting
that.
economic development in the parish. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. David.
Item 14, Livingston Parish Planning and Zoning Commission. Is anyone here from that commission? Not as well. So this is Woodland Highlands. This is a waiver request or preliminary plat approval. I believe this is in Mr. Delat's district, if I'm correct, Randy.
Yes.
And then we have authorization to approve the preliminary plat for the Woodlands Highway 444 to move, and then authorization necessitating a waiver of Section 125-1, division of lot, tract, or parcel of land into 10 or more lots with a minimum lot size of 87,120 and a maximum density of 1 per 3-acre lot. Eddie, is Mr. Ideal, are you familiar with this at all, Eddie?
No, that's somebody else. Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Mr. Gillette.
I would like to open it up for discussion. I think there's going to be discussion on both sides of this issue. Before I take any action, I'd like to hear that discussion.
Okay. And then it was 14.3, also authorization necessitating a waiver of section 125-106 2D large lot subdivisions having 90 lots or less may have effluent from an approved individual mechanical system and absorption bed drainage to open effluent ditches should the total number of total lots more than 90 lots. The subdivision shall have an approved community sewage treatment system. I believe this was, what this on here is before and it got deferred, Randy?
Yes.
And I believe this is the one that you had asked us to defer, what? Because
Correct.
you were doing some research on this.
Yeah, and we have some conflicting opinions, like I said, on both sides. So let's hear the discussion. Let's see if we can make up our minds.
And if we don't have any, you want to just push it back to
If we don't have any discussion, I'll push it back to the next meeting.
Mr. Easterly, did you have something regarding this?
Yes, sir. My name is Tom Easterly. My address is 450 Laurel Street, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I represent Ascension Properties, which is essentially the applicant for this request for a variance. First thing I'd like to note is that this goes back to the settlement agreement that was dated July 27 of this year, and this is consistent with language in that settlement agreement. This was part of the deal. So that's not changed at all since July 27, 2023. We've been over here a couple times, and we had some good discussion with Mr. Delatte. At one point, Mr. Delatte was ready to approve 1 and 2, and at my request, I said, no, let's hold off. I'd like for all 3 of them to be approved, and I think all 3 of these go together. I don't want there to be any confusion, so if you approve the preliminary plat, there's language on the preliminary plat that includes the language for the variances. So I am a lawyer and I'm not an engineer. That's dangerous for me to get into the engineering world, but I have an engineer here tonight, and I also have someone from the surveying company to provide some information if there's some detailed information. But suffice it to say, it is our understanding that the requirements from DHH relative to what I will call a MODAD, okay, will be satisfied by what is requested in number 3. And I believe that Mr. Delatte was I'm going to say, hung up a little bit on that and wanted to do some additional research. I think he's had a chance to look into it. He and I have not had an opportunity to discuss it in depth, but I've got some folks here who have some subject matter expertise that will be in a good position to answer any questions that the council may have. And I'm going to ask them to come up now just so that they'll be ready to answer the questions. But I believe this is ready, and I believe that it is appropriate, and I believe that it is highly desired in the local community. And the reason I say that is I have been approached by quite a few people at these council meetings who have all told me that they really want this, and I've had several different folks outside of the council meeting forum tell me the same thing. And in terms of what this represents high level, the original plat that was approved contemplated 689 lots for the same property. This proposal takes that down to 119 lots. I believe that that is the type of density that this council desires in large part. And as part of the settlement, there was an effort to work this into the overall settlement package. And for those reasons and for some of the other reasons that Mr. Burnham is going to offer in just a second, I would ask that this be approved. I'm going to
All right, Mr. Delatte.
Mr. Easley is correct in the comments he's made. All 3 of these need to be approved at one time. He was correct on the reference he said about me also. But there are some other people up here, so we need to give them opportunity to speak. So.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, if you'll put that in form of a motion, we get a second, then I'll open discussion.
I'm not ready to make a motion for anything yet.
Okay, we can, did you want to talk a little bit about the project?
I could do it now, or I could do it after some other people speak. Do you have a preference?
I do not. If there's any hands, anyone wants to speak, please raise your hand. If not, we're going to let this gentleman come up and speak. Yeah, you want to step just aside? And Ms. Sarah Ferris.
19241 Plantation Trace Drive. I won't say my name since you said it already. With all due respect to Mr. Easterly, it's not desirable in my community, in my opinion. I don't know where 119 modads would be desirable. Could anyone tell me the total acreage of this development? You'll have that in front of you?
Around 300.
300, okay. And so we remember that this is the subdivision formerly known as Valaire, which was 309 acres, I believe, or 308 and some change. Where did the other 9 acres go?
Sarah, the question is that you think there's more acres than what they
There's
say?
8 more lots. There's 8 more lots that are not the woodlands. And 119 plus 8 puts you over the limit for what DHH recommends. So I believe the DHH law is 125. That would put you at 127. So it seems like we've kind of chopped off 8 acres and they're not part of the development so that we can get away with parish grants a waiver because, granted, our parish law is more conservative than the state. But then you also fall below the state limit as well. So just wanted to point that out.
So you saying if we give a waiver, it still doesn't meet the state? Is that what you're saying?
In my opinion, but I mean, on paper, I don't know because I'm an engineer, not a lawyer. So can't help with that. That's all I have.
Oh, we're well rounded.
300.8 acres.
Okay, we have another lady who wants to speak over here, about correct? Is that Ms. Bobette? Okay. Come up and give us your name and address, please.
Bobette Larkey, 17850 M. Guitro Lane, Livingston, Louisiana. First of all, I'm not a lawyer either. I'm just a citizen. But I know Judge Erica Sledge just had court, and she said that we did not obey open meeting laws. How does that affect the settlement? Do any of you know?
Well, that'll be probably a different, that's probably a great question, but it's really not a question for this specific item is what I'm saying.
It is, because they're going to have to vote. It certainly is.
They can't vote against it.
Mr. Easterly already brought it up, and it requires 5 of these council members to vote yes.
And can I speak?
Ms. Sanford,
Can I
go
speak
ahead.
that? So, and feel free to come and give your input as well, Mr. Easterly. That settlement silences 150,000 people times 5. Our population of Livingston Parish is roughly between 150 and 160,000 people. We represent this whole parish. We don't represent just our own district. We are a parish council. So it's silenced. From my understanding, what I read, and I can read it real quick for you, they are not allowed to vote against it as per the stipulation. That came in at 4:44 p.m. We started our council meeting at 6 p.m. This was not told to us. So the 5 that did sign it, I don't think that you can ask them, but I don't think they understood what they were signing, and they can be sued personally if they vote against it. So that silences our people.
And that's what I'm asking. How does Judge Sledge's ruling affect this settlement?
Well, it's probably a great legal question, so I don't know that there's any engineers up
But
here.
you're going to vote on it tonight.
There's an attorney up here. Let's get his thoughts on that. Can you answer her question, Mr. Brad? Because I cannot. Pardon?
The question is how the settlement and what Judge Sledge ruled on it affects tonight's meeting. My understanding is I took no part in that suit or that settlement, so I really have been hands-off on that whole situation. But my understanding is that that settlement is still in place. Is that correct?
It's my understanding it's being challenged,
right.
And they have 30 days.
No, how can you vote tonight? How can you vote tonight if we cannot answer that question?
Typically,
Mr. Talbert, did you want to say something?
right, typically on public meetings, if you have a complaint about a public meeting, don't you have 60 days to address whether the public meeting was held properly or not at that point?
So you're questioning Judge Sledge?
Judge Sledge just let y'all refile. That's all she said.
No, she ruled.
did you need to answer that question, or are you good?
I'm good. I have no
So you
information
want
on
to
this also.
defer this, Mr. Delat, or what's your thoughts?
Let's hear some more discussion.
Well, I'm not finished yet if you want to
Okay.
hear more
Okay, you got
discussion.
more? I thought you had questions. Okay, go ahead.
No.
Okay, I got my mic working. That's working. So Brad, when is on a public's meeting law deal, when you say that the public meeting wasn't held properly, doesn't state law require you to identify that within 60 days?
I believe that's correct.
Okay. So, and did Judge Sledge basically let y'all amend the suit by the citizens of District 5 to originally District 5 sued and wanted Judge Sledge to set aside the federal court settlement, and she said she didn't have the authority to do that. So the second hearing allowed y'all to amend your original petition to allow you to refile based just on the public hearing. But did she rule on the public hearing suit yet? Has she ruled on that part of it yet?
It's still in litigation, isn't it?
Okay.
That's what I think. That's what I think is in litigation.
So
I don't know.
basically, Judge Sledge hadn't ruled whether the public hearing was held improperly or not.
I don't think she has. That's my opinion.
But typically, the suit would have to be filed within 60 days, which would have been when?
That was part of it.
Yeah, they got
She
to the-
amended, I mean, my understanding,
gave
she
him a deadline
granted that
December.
extension.
Yeah, just gave him a deadline December. I came in 5th or 6th or something.
Do you have some more, Ms. Fontaine?
6.
Continue, please.
Okay, thank you. Also, I have talked to several DHH people. They assure me that 125 is not always the cutoff. They have to come and they have to test the water to see if there's any organic matter in the water already from previous homes that have been built in the area. Also, our ordinance says 90 is the limit for personal sewer treatment plants, or MODADs, if you want to call it that. I'm just really, really concerned about the organic matter that's going to be flowing into, and I don't know if it's Bayou Bell or Bayou Piku, I can't remember. And it eventually makes its way to Amy River, which is already an impaired waterway. Also, I've been informed by other people, I've been questioning that this is kind of like a form of takings. If you grant this waiver, you're basically tying the hands of other homeowners, land companies, timber companies, if they want to sell their property and put a large lot subdivision or something, when they test the organic matter that's also going to run into these bayous, it's going to be high. They're going to have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to put in treatment systems so that they emit zero organic matter. So it's a form of takings, and you're granting a waiver for it. And all I've ever heard from you is, oh, we have to obey our laws, obey our laws. Well, when you break your ordinances and you grant waivers or variances, in my opinion, you're breaking your laws also, because you have an oath to the people. You make these ordinances, you want to break them for the developers, but I think the people spoke in this fall, when they voted. And I think you need to uphold your ordinances. And that ordinance says 90. That's all I have. Thank you.
You want to have something you want to say real quick? Give us your name and address.
Trey Kyle, 16417 Kenshin Road. The original Woodlands was 319 acres. Is that correct? And now it's at 308? So what?
300.8.
300.8, excuse me, yeah. So what did the settlement say? Can you prove 309? We're working on 319 or we're working on 300. If we're working on 319, that's what y'all agreed to, then they haven't even followed their settlement.
That's right.
So if they don't follow the settlement, why do you have to? So it was 319 acres for Valere subdivision. Now we got 300 acres for the Woodlands. That's two totally different operations, And there's many other things that can be said about it. It wouldn't matter if it was 2 houses or 119 houses. French settlement can't handle it. I mean, we got more subdivision signs popping up than we got business signs popping up. So,
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Have you heard any, since you're from that area, anybody say that they are for this? One
Definitely not.
person?
No,
No, thank you.
no. And I'm very involved in my community. So, why let them slide? Hurt the people.
Thank you very much. Your name escapes me, but if you'll come up.
My name's Steve Burnham. I'm the president of Engineering Associates Incorporated. Our address is 1538 Del Plaza Drive in Baton Rouge, 70815. A large percentage of the work that my office does is associated with the design and installation and operation and maintenance of sewer treatment plants. In conjunction with that, we prepare a lot of permit applications for submittal to the Department of Health for permitting of sewer treatment plants, and to the Department of Environmental Quality for permitting of their discharges. We were requested by the developer of the Woodland subdivision to take a look at the number of lots that are in the subdivision and make recommendations as the best way to sewer that from the standpoint of being protective of the environment as well as other factors. Of course, we immediately eliminated the possibility of tying to any publicly operated treatment works. There's no sewer service available to the subdivision. We looked at a community treatment plant all the way back to when this subdivision was known as Valere subdivision and had several hundred lots. We submitted what's called a preliminary determination to the Department of Environmental Quality, and you do that so that they can give you an opinion as to whether they would allow something that had a discharge to be located on the site, such as a sewer treatment plant. We already knew it when we submitted it, but they submitted back correspondence confirming that the eventual receiving stream for that area isn't considered to be an impaired water body, just meaning it doesn't meet all the water quality standards that the EPA would like to see a water body meet. But as a result, and as most of you probably already know, the DEQ restricts development in areas and puts criteria on it, special criteria on it, in the event that it flows to an impaired waterway. Now, in this case, the impaired waterway is 2 miles downstream. The reality of it is, I doubt a drop of water would make it to the impaired waterway. But
let's hold on a second. Hold on. Continue, please.
Regardless, we certainly looked at that, and then we looked at other options. Our recommendation to the developer, as a result of this low-density proposal with 119 lots, the lots are 2 to 3 acres in size. We feel like land application of the treated sanitary sewer is by far the favorable option. Those options could include discharge to the front ditch, which we don't recommend. We found that the use of spray irrigation, or the Department of Health also allows on large lots that you disperse the treated sanitary sewer on the ground as long as it's a certain distance from the property. I think it's 200 feet, so it's got to be a long way. But to give that water plenty of time to soak into the ground before it gets to the property line. But we feel like with these large lots, and what history tells us, is that the most successful thing to do here would be a no discharge option. It's by far the most protective of the environment. There's no discharge. It's discharged by spray irrigation to the ground. The DHH has standards for how many nozzles you use. A typical residential plant has 3 nozzles that spray a 20-foot radius. And so that's applied to the ground, and it soaks into the ground, and Mother Nature takes care of it, and there is theoretically no discharge. And in all honesty, if you got a 2-inch rain the night before and your plant discharged a little bit, you may get a little runoff, but in concept and in reality, it is a no discharge scenario. So that's what we recommended to the owner as the recommended manner of sewering the subdivision. Are there any questions regarding that?
Yeah, we have a couple questions. Mr. McMarsh, go ahead.
Sir?
What did the DEQ tell you?
Under a no discharge scenario, DEQ is not involved at all. The DHH is, and we have spoken to several DHH representatives that, and again, we knew this, but there's several ways to sewer the subdivision. We feel like this is the best.
This is the best.
Do you have that documentation with you tonight?
Sir?
Do you have that documentation with you tonight, saying they would approve that?
No, I don't think they would.
I'm not asking, thanking, because I got to be consistent.
The answer is no.
Yes,
The answer is no, but we have no concerns over the DHH permitting what I'm proposing.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay, real quick, Ms. Stanford, Mr. Mack was in the cube first. Did you have?
I was, but it's
On those individual sewer, excuse me. Thank you. On those individual sewer treatment plants, I heard you talk about on the discharge, you got those 3 sprinklers.
Yes.
That would discharge, I guess that would be at the surface and then dissolve into the, how far away from the house do those sprinklers typically get set up?
The Department of Health requirement is that it be, I believe, 20 feet off the property line, the radius of the spray, maybe 10 feet, but it can't spray onto the adjacent property owner. As far as the house, I think that's really up to the homeowner. He can put it at the rear of his lot as long as he maintains the distance to the rear property line requirement, or he can put it close to the back of his house, whatever he'd prefer.
Okay. I was just curious.
One second, Ms. Stanford, you was in the queue next?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about these sprayers. I am very familiar with this in recent times, and it has to do with a resident and a commercial development, and they have the sprayers, and they spray, the lawn maintenance crew runs over the sprayers.
Yes, ma'am.
And sewage shoots 6 feet in the air.
We have
And it's a
absolutely
mess.
run into all that.
Yeah.
Necessity is the mother of invention. They now make these little pop-up things that are right there flush with the ground. You can run your zero turn over it, and when it sprays, it pops up. The key is the homeowner needs to turn off the system before he mows, because it may start spraying while he's out there. So he needs to unplug the little pump that sprays to the spray irrigation, but the nozzles are actually flush with the ground. So that's one way to handle that. Another way we found to handle that is to put the irrigation nozzles in a little sprayer in a little landscaped area that never gets mowed anyway. So you've got the nozzle sticking up between 2 azalea bushes, and it's never a concern.
Okay.
So, but you're right.
But the issue is, so say this becomes a big residential neighborhood. Now, they're in. All they know is what the developer told them. Now that they start calling me and my colleagues saying, it stinks, we need help, we need you to do something, and you know it stinks, you know it smells bad, and you know it's going to contaminate that area. It is. And so then we have to deal with it because you had ideas.
I understand that. One of the No, I appreciate that. May I speak to that?
Sure, go ahead.
I do appreciate that, and there are cases, all those cases are true, and we probably operate and maintain, I don't know, between 125 and 150 different developments with sewer treatment plant. If a plant is running properly, it does not smell. I hope I don't get anything thrown at me, but that is reality and the truth. If the plant is running properly, and the only mechanical feature to these residential plants is a $350 aerator that blows air in it. If that aerator is running okay, which they usually do, it will not smell when it is sprayed. The second thing I was going to mention to you was that one of the reasons that we recommended land application is that were you to discharge to the front ditch, it would not surprise me if y'all were to get calls during drought conditions like we've had for the last 4 months, where nothing but the treated sewer effluent is in the ditch from those subdivisions, and maybe somebody's isn't running just right, or maybe they loaded it down with Clorox and killed the plant, so to speak, and the natural bugs that are in the plant. That can happen. But removing that from the front ditches and land applying it at the rear of those lots is by far superior with regard to the chances of y'all or the Department of Health getting calls from residents regarding the spray.
And so that would drain into the drainage way. That would make its way into
It shouldn't drain at all. It should all remain. Again, these lots with this low density, the lots are large enough to take on the entire effluence. It would soak in the ground. It doesn't. It's a no discharge scenario.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'm calling you. Go hold on a second. Scooter's in the queue. Go ahead, Scooter.
I just had some information for the gentleman that asked about whether it was in agreement. It's exactly in agreement. What they did, they took 8 lots, 2 on Jack Allen and 6 on, looks like on 444. Yes, and they're all a minimum of 1 acre, so that's where the other 9 acres went to.
It's 2 different filings. Listen, you
had a question?
This is the settlement. I'm not talking about the new drawing. I'm talking about the actual settlement. It's right there, executed settlement agreement, right there.
I want to
That I
talk
signed,
about.
and my signature's on the bottom of it.
Randy?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I don't want any ink thrown at me either, but what the gentleman is talking about, I've experienced also in Florida. That's what they do everywhere is in Florida. I happen to stay there for 2 weeks, and it happens at nighttime, and they don't do it during the daytime. When you wake up the next morning, it's gone. You don't see anything. The technology, I'm sold on it. I know I'm not buying one of those, but I'm sold on that. This is a question I'm asking. There's a mistrust between the two sides, and I'm trying to bridge that, okay? I'm trying to make that work.
Yes.
The mistrust is that this side says one thing and does another thing. So the people's never going to trust them. For people to buy in to any situation, you have to give them an opportunity to speak and listen and not just ignore them. Okay? We've been doing this for 2 years. There's been strong opposition, but there hasn't been anything really to settle that. Is it 117 lots? Is it 125 lots? Is it 127? What is the number of lots? It just seems like I would give a waiver tonight, and I know the people would get mad, but I would give that waiver tonight for 100 lots. That's 10 lots over our thing. I can live with that. But if it's 127, I can't live with that. And that's what I need to find out. What is the real lots?
And 8, 127. 119 in the Woodlands and 8 minor resubs.
So 127 is too many, guys. You can come back with 90 and you don't need any waivers. Or if you want to go with 100, I'll make that motion tonight.
This is in the settlement I signed, and I'm not going back on it.
Easterly?
I hope you did.
Go ahead, Mr. Easterly. Do you have a comment?
Yeah, I mean, we'd like to have it voted on as it is.
Okay.
And if that, I don't know where that would leave us if we would not have an agreement by the council for these variances. My sense is that we'd revert back to the existing preliminary plat, which has 689 lots. So
That's so intimidating.
Threats ain't gonna work, Tom. Threats ain't gonna work but for 5 people. Threats ain't gonna work.
Let's
I think you couched it well, Mr. Dwight, when you said that there's a bit of mistrust. Okay. For there to have been a vote on the settlement that was 5-4 has led to that. Okay.
Not a full settlement, no.
Well, but with respect to where we are tonight and where we are high level, if it doesn't pass, the density is so much lower. I don't know what that is in terms of a multiple, but is that 5 times less dense? Is that 1/5 of the density of what it is on the preliminary plat that was already approved? I think it is.
So
that's quite reasonable.
So this is what I said, okay? I was clear on what I said. I will not offer a waiver for 127 lots. I can offer one for 100. If that's not well enough, then that's not well enough. Do what you have to do.
Yeah.
Real quick, we had the queue's getting kind of full. I think Shane was up here first. Did you have a question, Shane? Can you,
This is for the
I'm going to call you, Gary.
This is for the expert on the sewer.
Could I clarify something? I didn't lay out the lots. I thought it was under the impression it was 119 lots. Is that correct?
It is, plus 8 more, but on the part with the preliminary.
Come on now. If you wanted to, well, I'm sorry, Paul, do you have a question?
I want to get up there.
Okay, well, raise your hand like everyone else does, and I'll call on you and you come talk, okay? But please, just don't blurt out in the audience. It's stressful enough up here dealing with this without having people. And I understand, so but one of us got to have the floor to speak. Thank you. Thank you, Chuck. Continue.
You ready? And then why you wouldn't want to have a community sewer treatment facility. Would that not be better for the environment?
There's a couple. No, not in this case, because you'd be discharging 100% of the discharge to the ditch. Again, with the impaired waterway being 2 miles downstream, I think very little, if any, of the water would actually make it to the impaired stream. But the DEQ does not really consider that to any significant degree, to the extent that they would impose such low limits on a discharge like that. It would be very, very difficult to meet. We do it, but it's difficult. Plus, that is not superior in a low-density subdivision to be able to have a no discharge scenario. Even if you spent the effort to design a plant that could meet the very, very low limits that the DEQ would impose on the plant, no discharge is much better. Typically, we don't have the option of doing that because the lots are not large enough to allow it. In this case, they are, which makes land application the much preferred scenario from the standpoint of protection of the environment.
Ms. Sanford, did you have
110 or 127?
I just have a comment. I want to read something to everybody.
He doesn't mean shit.
I didn't really appreciate well, if you don't do this, we're going to come back with this. And I would like, the settlement was released to the public and is on the website, but I want to read you this small portion of it. Section 59, in accordance with its home rule charter, Livingston Parish government, including but not limited to the Livingston Parish Council, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the Department of Public Works, shall not attempt to revoke, modify, or invalidate any prior approvals, adopt any new ordinances, procedures, administrative regulations, or zoning maps that are inconsistent with the provisions of this agreement, amend any existing ordinances or zoning maps in a manner that is inconsistent with the provisions of this agreement, allege any approvals expire unless the 24-month time period stated in the preceding paragraph applies, or take any action inconsistent with the terms and spirit of this agreement that will apply to any property shown on the preliminary plat submitted by Ascension Properties that was previously approved, as is reflected and noted here and above. So basically what that's saying is this settlement strong arms public officials. I mean, what I interpret it to say is it strong arms public officials to vote your way, or they are subject to being sued personally. Is that correct? Is that correct?
I believe that protects against this council obstructing the spirit and purpose of the settlement agreement, ma'am. When we may read that differently, and I think that there's a very substantial chance that a court will decide the issue that you raise, and I know it's been raised before, and that was part of the lawsuit that was dismissed because the court, Judge Erica Sledge, found that the court did not have subject matter jurisdiction over that suit, okay? And the other, whatever the company's called, the 5th District of Livingston Parish Concerned Citizens Association, LLC, which I don't know whether you're affiliated with that or not, ma'am, but that entity has until December 6th to try to refile a suit that can stand in state court, okay? Conceptually could possibly file some other suit somewhere else. And we'll see what that looks like, but the first suit was dismissed, and there is no suit as it stands right now. So the entity that I named was afforded leave of court to try to refile something, okay? But you and I can agree to disagree on the interpretation of that agreement, but what was done at the last council meeting, and this may come up in a little bit, in terms of agreeing to pass some sort of a rule not to rezone it?
I'm going to call a point of order on you
That's
right
fine.
here, okay?
Talk about that later.
And you went way beyond what I asked you, and you really didn't answer my question again, and we've been around this merry-go-round before. I don't appreciate what I interpret as intimidation. And that's what I felt like you were saying. And I'm asking you to please not come in here with that. This is a business meeting. We're a board of directors for the parish. We don't want to be intimidated, and we're not going to be anymore.
May I respond to that, ma'am? I didn't want to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it not factually true that there's a preliminary plat that was approved that shows 689 lots for that property? And is it not true that we're here tonight talking about reducing the density for that proposed development from that number to 127?
The point that I'm trying to make is the words that you used a few minutes ago were, well, if you don't do, what I interpreted it, what I heard you say was, well, if you don't do this, we're going to do this. We're just going to come back with more. Okay, come back with more.
I don't need to come back with more in the sense that that's already been approved. That's my understanding.
You've stripped 5 public officials of the right to represent the people of this parish.
I'm sorry, we stripped what now?
By this settlement. That's what it appears to be. They're silenced. They can't vote how their people want them to vote. They can't vote with their conscience and to uphold the laws of this parish because you have their hands seem to be tied in this settlement. And that's the point that I'm trying to make. I don't really have anything else to say.
Okay, well, we have Mr. Talbert in the queue real quick. I'll get to you, Mr. McMartin.
I got one question to the gentleman from the engineering firm. Steve, so your recommendation to DHH on this subdivision is surface discharge. So if this subdivision's approved and built, and I buy a lot in there, and I go to the Livingston Parish Health Unit to get my permit to install a sewer treatment plant, then I'm going to have to install a mechanical sewer treatment plant at my home with surface discharge.
Typically what happens is on the final plat, it states that since no publicly operated sewer treatment plant is available, that the individual lot owners must ensure that their sewer system is in compliance with the Department of Health regulations. And when you go to the Department of Health, they probably don't care if you do spray irrigation or if you do surface application with a pipe. You know, it's a little different twist.
Right.
It probably doesn't matter.
But they'll be noted that these lots will have to have zero discharge.
Absolutely. And a buyer would have that notice in the form of a big note on the final plat.
So if we approve this, then the only sewer that can be put in there will be surface discharge.
Correct.
Okay. I want to make a motion.
Oh, okay.
I want to make a motion to approve. We're going to get a second and we can keep discussion. I want to make a motion to approve 14A, 1, 2, and 3 as set forth right here.
All right, is there a second?
Yeah, that's on all 3.
It's on all 3.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Talbert to approve it, a second by Mr. Keene. All right, let's hear from, I know there's some people in the audience, if you don't mind, had a couple hands raised. I'd like to turn to the audience to get a couple questions or statements. Let's start with, in the back with a hand raised, Mr. John Mangus, I believe, Livingston Parish Councilman-elect.
Thank you. John Mangus, 13065 Catahoula Drive, District 6. Mr. Talbert spoke directly to my question, but I just wanted to ask it one more time. Was it Frank? Steve? Thank you. Sorry. He kept saying, Mr. Steve kept saying recommended. It was recommended. He didn't say required, and then Mr. Talbert asked if you approve it, would it be required? But it doesn't say that in the language. It says what you kept saying recommended. So there's a difference between recommended and required. Are they required to have the sprayers? Are they required by now public ordinance if it gets passed for them to have that system with the sprayers? Or, like you said, could they run it to the ditch?
I'll come up. Okay.
Because it has, I mean, for you to vote on it, you have to know. Because what if somebody doesn't maintain it? What if theirs isn't, is discharging differently? And then you will have those complaints and people will call. Remember, just because, not to mansplain, but just because you approve something, I mean, we had a burn ban. People were still burning. Just because you make a rule doesn't mean they're going to follow that rule. So if you're going to do it, you might as well make it as strict as possible.
Thank you. And I'll make sure your question gets answered when he comes back. Miss Bridget Gilbert.
Hi, my name is Bridget Gilbert, and I live at 238 North College East, Denham Springs, Louisiana. I'm in District 4. But I have a question for Mr. Brad. Okay, and I understand that there's like a settlement agreement, and we've got 9 councilmen here that basically were elected to represent 150,000 people. If you've got 5 of them that are bound to a special interest group and cannot actually vote for that 150 that they represent, can you actually have a vote on this?
What exactly do you mean bound to a special interest group?
There's
bound
a
by the
settlement. Yes. So they have to vote a certain way. They cannot vote and represent the 150,000 that they actually are supposed to be representing. They're bound. So you can't really have this vote.
You can have the vote, but I guess...
Well, how can you have the vote if they have to vote one way?
The council members who voted or who agreed to sign the settlement, that was kind of like their action in their representation. Look, whether it was right or wrong, that's their decision. I'm not saying they were right to settle. I'm not saying they were wrong to settle.
Well, I think basically you need to wait till you can have 9 people that represent Livingston Parish, the 150,000 people that live here and are not bound by an agreement. So I think you should put it off till you have 9 individuals that can vote. Not saying it was right, wrong, or indifferent to sign it. I'm just saying that you can't represent the people you're supposed to represent. And if you've got a 5-4 going into this already.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Was there any more? I'm gonna let Mr. Lark. Is it Mr. Larkey? Would you please come on up? Look, I know I stood up earlier, and I'm just trying to keep a little peace in the meeting, keep it running efficient. I hope you understand.
Steve Larkey, 17850 M. Guitro Lane.
Sure.
I live about a mile away from this place they want to build. All right, for the gentleman back there with the sprinklers, okay? He says they're good. It's a 2-acre lot. You're going to have a sprinkler go off. They're not timed. They're based on level switches. So you don't know when it's kicking on, okay? So if you got somebody goes in the house, takes a shower, flushes the toilet, and your neighbor's sitting out on the back patio barbecuing, and all of a sudden the limit switch goes off and it kicks on, and it's spraying and the wind is blowing towards him, he's going to smell it and he's going to feel it. How would you like to live next to that? Where does your sewer go?
If you would, direct your questions to us, and he'll answer.
I don't know, but he's the expert. I want to know, so where does your sewers go? Do it go to a treatment center? Does it go to a sprinkler? And do you live next to one of them sprinklers? Mr. Talbot, where do you live? Where's your sewer go?
Depending on which house. I mean, I got one that goes to a MODAD into a front ditch, and I got one that goes to a sewer treatment plant. I mean, it just depends.
Well, I don't know how many houses you got.
Just 3.
Just 3. All right.
Measly.
Right now.
But you see what I'm saying? A 2-acre lot, depending on, like he says, where they want to put it, in the back of your property or in the front of your property, the DHH is going to say if it's a parish-maintained ditch, then that's where you can put it. If you don't have a parish-maintained ditch, then you have to have a sprinkler system. And if your sprinkler system comes off the MODAD, they're not going to run it 300 feet to the back of your property. They're going to run it from the MODAD because it's a pump that's got to pump it. It's not going to pump it that far to make the heads pop up. Do you guys even know what they're talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do you? You got one?
I'll
You live out in the middle of nowhere.
Been
You
doing
ain't got
this
no
for 8
sprinkler
years, I
system.
know.
Parish-maintained ditch. I do not have
Weiss
one.
Road is
I have
not a
I
maintained
don't have a
ditch.
ditch around my house
So you have a
at all.
sprinkler?
Do I have a sprinkler system?
Yeah.
No, I do not.
Okay. But you see what I'm
But
saying?
I do have people in that area that do have.
But if it's in a subdivision and it's spraying right next to your house, your neighbors, I mean, they're not timed. They're on a limit switch. So when the tank gets full, it kicks on and it sprays. And they nasty and they stink.
That's the issue
if-
that I have with
They
it.
don't keep up with the aerator on their MODAD, then it's even worse. So before you go approving all this stuff, good luck.
Look,
I have 120, well, let's say I have 127 houses spraying in the evening when everybody's home after school and after work. You got a comment?
Well, we're going to save the comments till you finish.
I'm pretty much done.
I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to tell you where there's one of those at right now. There's, if you go to, what's the road that cuts from 190 to 447 behind the Walker Ballpark?
Corbin?
No,
At
the
Corbin?
one- the little one that goes.
Okay, so there's a Shell station at Corbin and 447. You know where I'm talking about? That's what they have behind them. They got a mechanical sewer treatment plant with a sprinkler system. I go there every week. You don't smell it. I never smell it. So I'm just saying that.
Okay, real quick, Mr. McMorris, did you have something to say?
I was going to wait till Mr. Steve comes back up. I had a couple.
Okay, are you done?
Yeah, I'm pretty much done.
Pretty much.
Thank you, man.
The only thing,
Go ahead, take your time.
one
I'm not
other
rushing.
thing, not on the sewer system, but other things. I've been coming up here for 2 years. I listened to y'all talk about, we got to follow the ordinances. If we're not going to follow the ordinances on this one and we're going to grant another waiver, it's ridiculous. And that is why the people spoke in this last election to get rid of some of y'all people. Thanks.
Mr. McMorris, do you want to, or you want to?
Mr.
We got.
Mr.
I want to ask him.
I'll get you to come up. Just one minute.
So I have a couple of the mechanical sewer treatment plants in my district.
Gary, help him with the mic. Give him your mic.
I got it. Test 1, 2. Can you hear me?
No,
it ain't
get him
It ain't
yours.
working. It's got a
Here,
light, but it ain't
here.
working. All right, I'm Gary Talbert right now. All right, so I have a couple of them mechanical sewer treatment plants in my district, and we fight them. The sewage that comes out the backside of it is just unbearable on that end of the parish, and everybody lives on 16 and 447 knows that is bad. The problem I have here, you're asking me to approve something here that we don't even know it's going to get approved by the state. You're coming to me and asking me to...
Then they'll shoot it down.
Man, hush for a
They'll
second.
shoot
Let me
it
finish,
down.
man.
It's just that simple.
Oh, they might do what, Scooter?
They'll shoot it down if it don't meet what
Well, they might
wanna
shoot
do.
it down, but I'm asking, it ain't on the drawings. It ain't on the plat, but you ain't the one going to get sued over this shit. G-Boy is. Because I'm the deciding vote here. You know that. So I'm going to ask you again. If the state turns you down on this, then we're going to have to come back again, right?
The Department of Health regulations are numerous, but we know them well. And for all of us who live in rural communities, we have to have a way to deal with our sanitary sewer because public operated treatment plants are not available. So the Department of Health has developed regulations that allow us to do that through the use of an approved mechanical sewer treatment plant. So I can tell you with the most assurance that I could possibly say something without ever being able to say this is an absolute, that the Department of Health will approve individual sewer treatment plants for the sewage of the lots in the Woodland subdivision. And I have spoken to them about it, and I've received
Yes,
no
sir, I
negative.
understand, and I'm not disrespecting you, but I don't trust the word you're telling me, unless you got the documents to prove to me that this is right. I mean, I'm in a tough spot, so I'm just asking for your documentation.
Well, certainly,
All right,
even
so-
if you were to approve it, it would still be subject to Department of Health approval. So you don't have to concern yourself over that, because if it gets shot down, it'll get shot down.
Brad?
I mean, if DHH doesn't approve it, they're not going to allow it. And if DHH shuts it down, they can't do it.
But it is our duty to protect the health, welfare, and
Ms.
safety of the
Hannaford,
people.
Mr. McMorris has still got the floor here. Gerald, you finished? You got any more questions?
No, I'm not done yet.
Okay, while you're here, would you answer Mr. John Mangus's question
Yes,
regarding?
and he actually made a good point. The Department of Health, again, has a host of regulations that regulate, permitted mechanical sewer treatment plants. Those regulations, in the case of large subdivision lots like this, would allow you to discharge a direct pipe to the roadside ditch, or they would allow you to do either of two scenarios for land application. One would be spray irrigation nozzles, and one would be a pipe with somewhat of a diffuser that sprays it on the ground that has to be the 200 feet
Right.
from the
I believe his
property.
question was recommended or required, was his.
And I'm getting to that.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I'm taking a minute to get to the punchline.
That's okay, that's all right.
But the punchline is, if you prefer, and I mentioned to you, Aaron, that I felt like the chances of the parish getting any kickback on anything were much less with a land application system than with a discharge
speak
pipe
to
to
that.
the front ditch. So, I recommended to the developer a no discharge scenario, which is much better for the environment and I think much better for everybody.
Right.
He accepted that recommendation. You may need to make this approval based on land application, which would eliminate the possibility that somebody goes to the DHH and gets approval to put a pipe to the front ditch, okay? Because that would be an acceptable option to them that technically does meet the Department of Health regulations for these lots. Does that make sense? Did that answer your question?
Yeah, do me a favor if you don't mind, sit up front real quick. I had one.
Yes, sir.
I think we have one more person from the audience to
Yes,
speak,
sir.
and then I'm gonna try to move on. So let this gentleman come speak. Give us your name and address. Oh, Mr. Wallace, I didn't
Raymond
recognize you.
Wallace, 9350 Lockhart Road, Denham Springs. What I have just put out before y'all is we're talking about approximately 300 homes. You take the EPA average for that, about 200 gallons a day. That's 250,000 gallons a day approximately getting discharged into the air. I've been by these commercial sites and seen them, water scooting out all over. I've seen the mist blowing all over the place. You take and talk about on a perfect world, we're talking about statistical data. Y'all know what statistics is about? There are lies, there's darn lies, and then there's statistics. You take anything you want to on a scale and put what you want it to say to appease the audience that you're talking to. The good thing about Louisiana politics is, another thing, it's English common law, Spanish, and French law. It makes it very difficult to get in and weasel things because they word it exactly like they want it to accomplish what they want. And finally, let's go ahead and clear cut the whole parish like you do all these subdivisions. You have nothing retaining any of this water to hold it back and give it time to percolate naturally like it does to need to. But no, let's do what St. Tammany did years ago on the North Shore. They shut down clear cutting. No more. It needs to stop because you're taking away drainage, slow down, and that's putting water on top of people down south that is not getting taken care of. Furthermore, somebody needs to take and pursue the Army Corps of Engineers and get that mouth of the Mississippi, the Amite River opened up so this parish can drain correctly. I've watched this since I've been out here in '79, time and time again. I would never have signed that paper until I had a vote with the people, and surely to have to be browbeaten into it. God rest your soul and may you be blessed according to your works. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. All right, I'm going to go ahead and, I think you've already spoken, I believe. You've already spoken. We got a limit. It just keeps going to the audience. So I'm going to turn one more time to the council. If you have any questions, Shane Mack, and who's up first? I can't.
Aaron Sandiford.
Okay, Aaron, go ahead.
I have a question for you, Mr. Steve. I didn't catch what company you were with.
Engineering Associates Incorporated in Baton Rouge. I live in St. Francisville. My office is in Baton Rouge.
Okay. Is there truly no discharge? Because that means nothing's coming out. This is overland discharge, which is discharge.
Are absolute other than Jesus Christ.
Okay, that's not answering my question.
So that's what I say. It is no discharge by definition of the DEQ and by definition of the Department of Health. I kind of alluded to a while ago. If you get a 2-inch rain tonight and your sewer treatment plant does spray irrigation an hour after that, you may get a little runoff, but it's going to be so diluted, which is not the way you solve environmental problems. But the fact of the matter is, it's going to be way more water than it is treated sewer. So it just doesn't matter.
Is it truly no discharge, in your opinion?
Yes.
Truly no discharge. Okay.
Are you saying no, not one drop ever? Did I not explain that appropriately?
Because that means nothing is coming out of that spray.
Look.
If there's no discharge, that means nothing's coming out of that spray. That's all I'm trying to clarify with you.
No, the spray is going on the ground.
Yes.
And the Department of Health is the one that came up with the number of nozzles,
discharge.
the sprayer gate, and it's based on the ability for the ground to soak up the water without running off the lot. And by and large, that's exactly what happened.
My next question, how are they going to ensure that the homeowners have sprinklers and not just the pipe dumping on the ground? Because I have problems with that right now in my District 5.
Yes, ma'am.
So how are we going to ensure that?
The DHH has a big stick. They have enforcement actions and enforcement penalties that would make you cringe if you thought they were going to be applied to you, and they can do whatever they need to do to require a homeowner to make their sewer treatment system run within the specifications of their regulations. But having said that, if a homeowner is going to keep their spray irrigation nozzles going, because if they don't, it's going to back up in their house. That's the only part that will stop that plant up and keep it from spraying. So they're going to replace the pump if it needs replacing.
My last question, when it rains, is there runoff or discharge?
When it rains, what?
Is there runoff or a discharge? Does it soak into the ground?
Of the rainwater? Or of the treated sanitary sewer?
The treated sanitary sewage.
The treated sanitary sewer, if it's sprayed in the middle of a big heavy rain, the answer would be yes. I would expect it to flow with the water, but again, it's so diluted.
And so it soaks into the ground. And ultimately, it's going to make its way back to that drainage way and compromise that drainage way.
No, that's not true.
Well,
I'm sorry. And look, I'm in the real world here. I am. This is not the theoretical. We've got over 125, 150 sites that we operate and maintain. I appreciate everything y'all have said, and I haven't tried to mislead you in any way. Some of these commercial plants, man, they clean the floors with Clorox and all that. They pour it down the drain that goes to the sewer treatment plant. It kills all the natural bugs that are supposed to do their thing in the plant, and the plant stinks to the high heavens. It absolutely happens. Houses are not nearly as subject to that as a commercial sewer treatment plant are. I'm telling you, I do this. This is what I do.
We got one more council member, and then I think we're going to...
I'm still waiting for my turn. I only have one question.
You said you was finished a while ago.
No, sir, I didn't. You went to the next one.
Well, go ahead.
I'm okay.
No. I'm the chairman.
Hey, Mr. Steve, thank you. So I do have a same kind of treatment at my house.
Gerald, what I'm saying. I get
so
what
I just
you're
need
saying.
clarification so I can make a right decision here. Mr. Tom, this is for you. What are we doing with the other 8 lots? 2 was coming in off from the Jack Allen Road. On your plat right now, it don't show them anymore. You had 4 coming off 444. What are you doing with them guys now?
6. So they're not on the plat that is part of Roman numeral or little I. 14AI.
Because it changed
So
from.
they'll be subject to all the other parish regulations and ordinances applicable to those types of properties.
So if it's zoned R1 or 2.5, you can go in there and build 8 homes on an acre or 7 homes, whatever it is, on an acre, right? Later on?
That's in the settlement. They can't do nothing else.
I think the density is limited as per the settlement agreement, so I don't believe that what you said is correct.
That's the reason I'm asking you the question right now. Because the homeowners that live there, Brad, I don't know if he's here tonight, we don't know what y'all are doing there going by Brad's house. We have no clue. They lost. And look, my brother joins this property. We don't want the 600 homes. That's for daggum sure.
Minimum lot size of 1 acre.
That's on the other 8?
That's for the other ones. It's in paragraph 72.
Could you read that to me one more time?
It says minimum lot size of 1 acre and meeting all parish requirements for a minor subdivision.
That's on the 109, right? Or the 90?
That's on the 8.
That's
Hold
on
up,
the other
Gary.
ones that you were asking me about.
I'm going to make damn
It's
sure,
on-
guys.
it's
I'm
on
sorry,
there.
John.
That's what
Mr.
I read
Gerald,
a while
you've got
ago.
the floor, buddy. You go ahead. We got till December 31st.
Well, Brad's not here tonight, and these people don't know what's going to happen with these other lots.
Hey, right there.
Can we
on Jack
defer
Allen,
until
minimum
January?
1 acre, 2 on Jack Allen, and 6 on 444. 1 acre minimum.
Yeah, that was an agreement.
Yeah, it's in the settlement.
Yeah, that was an agreement, but now it's changed.
No, sir. I believe that's still the same. The answer to your question is there's not going to be, whatever you asked me, 6 or 7 houses per acre. It's going to be less dense than that. It's
But
one
you're
house per
not
acre.
building the other 8 lots out right now. You're going to come back later and do whatever you want with them at 8.
They'd have
it's in the settlement.
they'd have to come
Man,
get
I'm gonna leave
your
that
approval to
goddamn
change
settlement,
that.
Man, just give me time, just a
Mr.
second, man,
McMorris,
please. I'm sorry, God, forgive me for saying that, but you interrupt me every time I ask a
You
question.
asked me what it said.
Scooter, let him talk. He's got the floor.
I tell you what, here you go. I'm gonna dismiss myself.
Okay, so let me, add- so
It says right.
So
We signed it.
let's talk about this. There are 119 lots, part of the deal, part of the subdivision.
Or the plat.
Okay, there are another, and that includes the 10 lots that are 2 acres, right?
Correct.
Okay, so you got 119, which requires the waiver on 2 and the waiver on 3. Then you've got another 8 lots that are part of a minor resub that'll abide by all parish regulations that are an acre, that can't be smaller than an acre apiece on the other 8 acres.
Correct.
Okay, so the settlement did not talk about, it talked about approved, it talked about mechanical systems and absorption bed drainage to open affluent ditches. And I put forth a motion to approve 14A1, 2, and 3 as written here. I would like to amend that motion to say that individual mechanical systems with surface discharge, overland flow, so that we take off the absorption bed and we take the ditch out of consideration. And the only way that they can put mechanical in is surface discharge and overland flow. That way we're never discharging into a ditch as part of the waiver granted. So I've amended my motion. Scooter, will you second that amendment?
Yeah.
What did he amend his motion to?
All right, we have I guess, you want to, his basic motion was to require the surface discharge.
That's your amended motion.
That's what his amended motion. I'm going to call that a substitute motion, okay?
That's fine. I mean, whatever.
And then Scooter seconds that. There's discussion. Mr. Mack.
Okay, so I got two questions, and I may want to make a substitute motion based on the answer here. I'm trying to understand here. So the first question is, does anybody remember, I know, Gary, you were probably highly involved, when we wrote this ordinance on large lot subdivisions, Why did we say that if it was less than 90, you could have individual sewer treatment facilities, but above 90 or more, you needed a community sewer treatment system?
The state was, at that point in time, the state was 125. 90 was an arbitrary number that we agreed upon. 90 was a number that we came up with when we were trying. So you remember we did two different type subdivisions. We did a subdivision that netted out an acre, and we gave them some breaks on curb and gutter in their design. Then we came back, and this, I'll be honest, this large lot subdivision came about because of Mr. Valerie's death.
I remember.
And trying to subdivide this property and trying to figure out how to subdivide huge tracts of land without creating too much density and not requiring all the stuff. And so basically as we addressed the problem, we came out with a 3-acre net, meaning that you had to have one lot had to net out to 3 acres based on the property you took into account. No lot could be less than 2 acres. You could put a parish gravel road in that met the parish gravel road standards. You didn't have to do a drainage impact study. And you could put mechanical sewer treatment plants in as long as you had a drainage study on the ditches, so that, and that was a DEQ requirement. But 90 was an arbitrary number.
Okay.
Instead of going to the 125 that the state had.
Did he answer your question?
He does. I got another question.
All right.
Okay, this expert here says that this sprinkler discharge system is what's best, right? Gary amended his motion so that, we're going to grant a waiver and allow these, basically require these sprinkler systems.
Discharge in the back.
Okay. I guess the question I have here, now that you're modifying your motion, deviating from what's printed on this piece of paper here, does that not different from the language that's in that settlement agreement? So to me, this needs to be postponed or something, because to me that deviates from the settlement agreement totally. However, that possibly could be what's best. I'm not real sure. I mean, can you answer that question? Can you answer that question? Because you're saying that the sprinkler systems is what's best, okay? Originally, y'all said that what was on this document here is word for word what's in that settlement agreement. He's originally made a motion to grant a waiver for what's in this document, right? Then he came back and he made a substitute motion and modified that verbiage to align with this expert in this sprinkler sewer system is. So to me,
he didn't really change.
He's deviating from the settlement agreement in the language that's originally in the settlement agreement. So if you vote tonight with Gary, to me, you're deviating from the settlement agreement, because the language in the settlement agreement says that you got to have this this mechanical system absorption bed drainage to open effluent ditches. And that's not what his second motion is, which is what this expert is recommending. You see what I'm saying now?
I see what you're saying.
We got to hold off on this, in my opinion. So I want to make a, can I make a substitute motion?
Yeah, make a substitute motion.
Wait, you just said mine was a substitute.
I'm going to withdraw that motion because.
I didn't want to withdraw it.
No, I'm doing it as a chairman because it was not really, because that you didn't really change anything from the first initial motion. So this will be the substitute motion.
You can amend it.
Well, you've amended it.
Okay,
right.
But my question is, and I amended it talking to Mr. Easterly to make sure that it wasn't a problem with the attorney with respect to the settlement agreement that exists with the Fifth Circuit. I mean, we have a federal mandate that required us to do certain things. I basically looked at him as I was making this motion, because ultimately they can only sell lots based on what DHH approves. The expert's sitting there telling you DHH is going to approve surface discharge and overland discharge. If surface discharge with overland runoff, is that what you call it? That's why I made my motion to include what the expert said, because there were individuals that don't believe what the expert is saying is fact. So I just put in my motion what the expert said that DEQ is going to prove. I don't think I'm violating
And I'm not saying you
the
are,
agreement by any stretch of the imagination.
Mr. Mack wants to make a substitute motion to your amended motion. Do you still want to make that motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a substitute motion that this be deferred until we can gather more information. I feel like he's deviating from the settlement agreement.
Is there a second from Mr. Mack?
I second.
We've got a substitute motion by Mr. Mack to defer this for a time, or just?
Wait. This is going to come up later. I don't do what you want to do, but this topic is going to come up later. When you make a motion to defer, right, you have to clarify, are you making a motion to postpone, or are you making a motion to table? Because there is a difference.
We'll explain the difference. Explain the difference.
Okay, so a motion to table essentially takes it off the agenda indefinitely until another member makes a motion to take it off the table and back on the agenda. A motion to postpone will allow you to postpone it until the next meeting.
Or dated.
Or date.
Or date.
Put a date on it.
Well, then table it. Well, then the motion, I think your motion, your intent is to
Yeah,
table.
I want to table.
Motion to table by Mr. Mack. Is there a second?
I second the motion to table.
We got a second to table. Ms. Sarah, what?
Brad, so what does that leave me?
Me too.
You're not voting against it. You're not voting against it.
For that, I'm asking for
I'm sorry.
You're not voting against the settlement. That's right. Unless there was a deadline on that. And if there was a deadline on that settlement, then somebody may need to make a motion to take it off the table and put it back on the agenda before the deadline comes.
Yeah.
That's what I want to make sure. I didn't want to get caught in the catch-22, guys. Sorry.
That's okay. I did say no more comments from the audience, but pardon? We have a substitute motion, and you know, Ms. Sarah, come on, Ms. Todd, would you step aside just for a second?
I would ask that this motion be denied.
Thanks for that. When does the 60-day state approval come into play? Because this will be how many times that we've deferred, postponed, tabled, whatever terminology we're using. So any
Referring to the settlement, or you're referring to the open meetings law?
the approval of the woodlands. When is the state law for automatic approval after 60 days going to come into play?
When was this plat filed?
I don't know.
We don't know. But I don't
It
know.
came before the Planning Commission, though, this is November? It was the November meeting? Or the October meeting?
October 5th.
December 5th?
I want to say something there that may help answer this question. It's my understanding that this did come before the planning, but it was denied by planning. It wasn't deferred by planning.
Right.
Yep.
So to me, the 60-day would start tonight.
Yeah, because the Planning Commission took an action, correct?
They took an action.
An action to deny.
Right, so the 60 days applies to whether or not if the Planning Commission takes no action, it's automatically approved after 60 days.
Right.
But
So if we take no action tonight, to me, the 60 days starts now. But
This is not the first time it's been on our agenda.
All right, so does that answer your question, Ms. Sarah?
I don't think so. I don't think I heard an answer.
You asked when the 60 days started, when the 60-day deadline would extend to. To me, the 60 days is going to start tonight. That's just my interpretation. I'm not a lawyer. But to me, the reason for that is because tonight we're voting to approve the preliminary plat with these stated waivers, right? This has already been denied by planning, so the 60-day doesn't apply. They had 60 days to make a decision and take action. They did so. To me, we're approving this tonight. We're voting to approve. To me, the 60 days starts tonight. It's just my opinion, though. I'm not a lawyer. I'm pretty.
Somebody might want to ask Mr. Easterly what his opinion is before
All right,
he
let's
leaves.
go ahead and let's go ahead and take up Shane Mack's substitute motion to table this until a later date. Pardon? Yes, we will. Is there a second?
Yeah,
Mr.
Randy.
Delat seconded.
Second, but did you say a date?
No, he didn't. The table until later.
Well, it's tabled, so somebody else is going to need to put it back
Ms.
on the
Angie,
agenda.
are you ready to call for the vote, please?
Mr. King?
No.
Mr. Talbert?
No.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
No.
Mr. Delat?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes?
Ms. Sandifer?
Yes.
Mr. Ord?
No.
Mr. McMorris?
Again. I don't need no help from nobody.
I was just going to tell you.
I just don't need no help right now.
If you would stay
I know all about the people, man. I really do.
You need a microphone on. Give him a mic, Scooter, or just so he could catch his vote.
I asked your opinion a while ago, right?
Well, I know you're looking at me, man, and I say that I'm going to give you the same answer. You know, I didn't take part in the settlement or the suit, but I will say that by voting to table it, you're not voting to deny it. You're not going against the settlement. As long as there's not a date. Now, I don't know. I wasn't a part of it, but as long as there's not this settlement has to be executed and we have to take action on this settlement by X date. If that's not in there, then you're okay.
And to me, the truth is there's still time. This can be added to the December 14th meeting if it has to be.
Yes.
All right, so that motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda, item 15, public hearing adoption of LP ordinance number 2341, dissolution of Recreation District number 7. Mr. Jeff Ard requested this be on the agenda. You got all those votes, Angie? Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right.
This is public.
Jeff?
Ready?
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to explain what this is about because I missed the last meeting.
Pardon?
The public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, real quick. So this is a public hearing. We need to read by title first, Jeff. I'm sorry. Just
Okay.
a little bit chaotic here tonight.
Okay, this is ordinance number 2341, an ordinance providing for the dissolution of Recreation District number 7 of the parish of Livingston, state of Louisiana, and to provide for other matters in connection therewith.
This ordinance was introduced at the last council meeting. Therefore, that's why it is for adoption tonight and it was read by title. So, Mr. Ard, continue.
All right. So just, I guess, a quick recap on where we're at with this. I guess in the first term that I was elected, we tried to pass a tax for a recreation district over here in the Coyell Livingston area. Me and G-Boy both were a part of all that commotion that the two communities just couldn't get along. They were fighting who's getting this money, who's getting that money. So a decision was made to split it into two districts. We each tried to pass our own tax. They both failed. We then went to Mr. Jim Ryan and we said, hey, there's some money left over. How do we divide this? He said, well, look, money has to stay where it was collected. So we got with the tax assessor. We asked him to tell us what was the north of the interstate, south of the interstate. How was it divided? And he come back and told us, I have the actual minutes, it was 38.5 was south of the interstate, 61.5 was north of the interstate. So we split it that way to the two districts. The district south of the interstate got their money. They used it in their ballpark. They did some upgrades. We have a board with it on the north of the interstate, and it's been 5 years, and 3 mayors have went with projects asking for help, and they've gotten none. They keep being told, well, we'll think about it, we'll get back with you. Well, I've got plans for something else, I'll get back with you.
And that's been going on for 5 years. That's the taxpayers' money on the north side of the interstate. The mayor has some good projects that he wants to do. There are some good projects, and they cannot get it. Instead, they're being told what they're going to do with the money. You know, right now, the mayor wants to make some pickleball courts at the Parks and Rec. I think that's a great idea because seniors can use it, kids can use it, teenagers can use it. We don't have nothing like that north of the interstate. You know what we have? We have a baseball and softball complex. That's what we have. We have Circle Drive Park. I'm all for giving recreation to everybody in that district, and that's what pickleball courts will do. So since this was put on the agenda, they decided to have a meeting Tuesday. Well, we're going to give $90,000 for a covered batting cage. We're going to do $5,000 for signs. No bids have been taken. Supposed to get 3 bids. I mean, they just pulled a number out the air. We're going to build batting cages. They haven't even got with the mayor and his people to see if they even want batting cages at their facility. The mayor came to the meeting and told them, I want to do pickleball courts. He even has another project where the playground equipment is falling apart at Circle Drive Park. He wants to put in new playground equipment. These are good projects. I just want to give whoever the mayor is a place where he could go to with his projects and say, hey, I want the money that my people put in this account 5 years ago. And I want to give them some recreation with it. And we can't get that money. By doing this, this council will come in charge of that money. And the mayor could walk right there and ask this council for the money. He can present his projects, and he actually has somewhere he can go to get his money. That's all I'm trying to do. And I don't care if they wait for the next council to decide where the money goes. I just want to make sure that whoever the mayor is has an opportunity to tap into this money and give the recreation to the people that paid that money in. That's it. That's all I'm trying to do. You know, they got their money south of the interstate and they were able to use it. We've never been able to use it north of the interstate at all. And that's all I'm doing. So I have a motion to.
Pardon?
Oh, yeah, closed.
Okay, yeah.
So before.
So now we know, before we make that motion, there's a public hearing. I want to declare a public hearing open. Is anyone here to speak for or against this specific ordinance, adoption of this ordinance? None being, I'll close the public hearing. Motion by Mr. Jeff Art. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Tracy Girlinghouse. Discussion. Mr. Bing Morris, did you want to say something?
Yeah, so I'll clear up a couple things real quick. All right, so I'm going to go all the way back to whenever this tax was first passed. You know, it never was a 60-40 split in the first place. It was always a handshake deal between the two sides of the interstate, between Coyell and Mr. Sibley up here. And then it went on to where we donated the gym, if you remember the gym there at behind the high school. We donated the gym there, the recreation did. We built a $3 or $4 million ballpark up here with the money. So 60-40%, yeah, you get your fair well share of 60-40% on a handshake deal. That ain't what the people voted on. They did that for a reason. They did that for a reason because we had to include Satsuma. We had to include all the way up to way past the other side of the tracks. If they're outside the town limits, they don't involve the town. And we always gave that money. But
it does involve the town.
Yes, 28% probably, right? But, you know, everybody in this parish spent their money right. The only concern got me, the first mayor came, and look, this goes back before my time, right? Whenever I got on that board in 2012, 13, it was nothing but a dogfight over that money. So me and the 7 board decided Do away with that handshake deal. It ain't no more 60-40 split. You need the money, you will spend it. Coel needs it, we'll spend the money. So we did. We built you recreation bathrooms, pavilions up there. We redid our track down here. We spent that money on the parks. There's no doubt. We got our $70-some thousand out of that 200-some thousand that was in the bank. We used it at the ballpark. I'm not asking for your money. Coel Ballpark is not asking for the money. But we asking to put it to where it's going to be used for the kids. But you elected that board to do that. You elected.
They won't even give them a meeting, G-boy.
You elected a president to do that for you guys, and a board to do that. That's what y'all elected them for. Same as Coel. We got board members. That's what they do. They spend that money for the ballparks, for the, whatever's needed for up there. I don't get involved with it because I resigned because I want to run for council. All right. So what I'm asking you guys, just look at it, man. Man, I told JT, as long as we build it for the kids, I don't care. But you also got to look at Mr. Ronnie Macklin. I got him on that board up there to make sure that this money was spent correctly and not like it was before, where it wasn't going to the kids and the people. And that's what was happening. And we all know that because we showed a loss every year at that ballpark. And you read the minutes just like I did at every meeting. JT, I'll put my trust in JT.
Me too.
But we got to understand, man, we got a board up there. That's what they're for, to help spend that money. Is that what they're going to build? They're going to build a pavilion. They're going to build a batting cages for these kids to pitch under, right? That was at the meeting, right, Lonnie? Lonnie Watts?
That's what they said at the meeting. But I mean, they didn't follow any laws.
Let him.
But they didn't get any bids. They didn't get approval from the mayor and his council.
Yeah,
nothing.
I don't know that.
Yeah, none of that's been done.
The mayor's here?
The mayor's not here, but I mean,
I don't know if he did or not.
The first he heard about it was Tuesday night.
Okay. Well, I'm just telling you, I don't know that.
Yeah.
Mr. Blatt? Or are you finished, Mr. McMorris?
Yes. Just one more thing.
No, take your time.
Man, the north side, yes. We still hand agreement, shakes, whatever you want to call it. But right's right, man. Let's just get back where they're going to spend the money. I think Ronnie worked on getting grants. If we'll go back and look with the parish up here, we tried to get 7 or 8 grants and try to get matching funds so we could do stuff, right? We didn't have enough money to match the grants. It failed. We tried at the fairground to do stuff, and that man will tell you what we tried to do.
And we can't
we didn't have the money because it wasn't part of the recreation.
I know.
And the town is not either.
No.
Right? Is that law?
That park is part of recreation.
The baseball part, right?
Yeah.
All right.
That's where they want to build pickleball courts at.
Okay. Thank you for the information.
Yeah.
I'll make sure
I'm done, sir.
You sure?
Sorry.
Mr. DeLatte?
Okay, if I understand correctly, y'all are agreeing, right? You're not disagreeing, you're agreeing. Is that right or not on the money?
I just want the people to get their money, that's all.
So if y'all agreeing, can we just make this wait until the new council comes in next week and let them make that decision? Let whoever it is, John Mangus and who else is in there, Lonnie, y'all good with that, Jeff, if y'all agreeing? That's up to y'all. Tell me what. I'll make a substitute motion if y'all agreeing. If you ain't agreeing, then let's work it out.
I mean, I agree with the money part, but I just feel like that. I don't think it should be my call to make it.
Tell me what to do, Jeff.
I mean, I just want to make sure, because I've been told this so many times. Well, we're going to have a meeting. Well, we're going to have a meeting. Well, we'll do this. Well, we're going to have a meeting. And it's been 5 years. It's been 5 years. I mean, come on.
I can believe that 2 new guys coming in is going to make sure it's not 5 years. I know there's some sensitive feelings here. I think you did a great job explaining it, Jeff. It seems like G-Boy was okay with the explanation. So, if y'all want to wait until the new council comes in and makes that, or you want to do something tonight, you just tell me, where we at. G-Board, make a...
Is that a motion to defer?
Well, I want to see, I don't want to call a vote and then it goes 4-4, you know?
Mr. Talbot, I see you
I
raising.
think Jeff offered a compromise. Dissolve the board and let the new council allocate the money.
Yeah.
I mean, dissolve the board, put the money in the parish budget, let the new council allocate where they spend the money. That's as good a compromise as you can come up with.
But that might not pass. So,
Let me ask you a question. So he's got a plan already put in place where to spend this money. I don't know that for a fact. I'm not up there with him.
But he got to get the new council to vote on it.
No, they don't. If he's still if this is not abolished tonight, they can keep on moving forward, get their 3 bids, and if it costs $60,000, then that's $50,000 we can give to Livingston, the parish. I mean the town.
I'll make a substitute motion that we go ahead. Was that a motion made or not?
Well, it's up to you if you
Okay.
want.
I'd like to make a motion that we let the new council members work with the board and tell them what the law is, how they have to meet, and where the money has to go at. And that's enough time, I think, 2 weeks to make that happen, or 3 weeks, or whatever it is.
All right, we got a substitute motion. Is there a second for that?
Okay, what's the motion? Say that motion.
To table this until the new council comes in and let them make a decision?
I can second that. I'll second that.
A motion by Mr. Delat to let the new council after January
25th.
After the inauguration, January 25th?
Their
January
first meeting
25th.
is January 11th, the new council.
The January
2024.
11th would be.
Well, if we could just
Push it back to the
postpone it
January 25th. The second. That'd give them one meeting. So, and second by Ms. Sandiford. Now, Mr. Girlinghouse has a comment.
Just a quick question. So you said that the rec board met Tuesday? So the day before yesterday?
Yeah.
So when was the last time they met before that?
4.5 years.
Okay.
4.5 years of, well, we'll get with you. Well, we'll have a meeting.
That's a problem.
And I mean, to me, that's the taxpayers' money.
Was that with you or was that with their board? I mean,
That was with 3 different mayors.
Well, I ain't talking about mayors.
Well, that's who requested the meeting to give them projects.
So,
And they wouldn't have a meeting for them to.
But he got aldermen sitting on that board. I'm not trying to argue with you, man. We see the same thing. But
you know, look,
they have their board meetings. I don't go to their board meetings.
Yeah,
I go when they need me.
there was a splash pad offered to be built in the town. There was putting turf on the infield at the ballpark so that the fields can be utilized for something besides just baseball and not have to worry about tearing up the fields. LED lights put at the ballpark to help with the cost of the electricity bill. I mean, all of these projects have been brought throughout the years, and they can't even get a meeting. Can't even get a meeting to go after the taxpayers' dollars.
Randy, about your motion to defer, will it include any action by the district? Because basically what you're saying is that you're restricting Jeff's ability to dissolve, but you're not restricting the district's ability to spend that money before the new council gets in place. They could, in theory, have no money left when the new council gets there. So my concern is by dissolving the board, they can't spend the money. And then the new council decides how the money's spent. But by deferring this, that board can spend that money before that new council ever sits here.
Which is what they tried to do Tuesday.
I'm just telling you, the deferral is the problem. Let's dissolve the board. No money's going to be spent by this council.
No.
And let the mayor present his options to the next council for spending. But let's dissolve the board tonight.
Well, I don't know if we can dissolve the board tonight for one reason. It probably was created by ordinance. You're going to need an ordinance to dissolve it.
That's what this is.
Okay.
This is the ordinance.
So this is the introduction, though.
This is the
We introduced it last time. This is adoption. This is it.
I got something to say.
I do too.
No, you can't talk.
Yeah.
Good point to make, yeah.
All right, Mr. Mack, go ahead.
It's probably one of the toughest decisions I had to make as an elected official in a long, long time. I'm going to refer back to this. Since I've been a councilman, we appoint board members and we oversee boards. And I've always supported the board's decision and never tried to get involved with telling them how to basically run their operation. I would support the board members, and if we felt like the board was making bad decisions, then we would replace the board members per law. In this situation, which is very tough, I mean, there's strong arguments, both sides. I just feel like it's the wrong thing to do to dissolve the board without a resolution from the board agreeing that the board should be dissolved. You know, it sounds like to me, yes, they didn't meet for 4 or 5 years. That's a pretty big negative thing, right? Hadn't really been operating the way they should or intended, but they did meet Tuesday, right? And they do have a game plan to spend the money on what the taxpayers passed the tax and for it to be spent on, right, which is the rec district. So my thought is I mean, I agree with Randy. This needs to be deferred. I hate to keep pushing, you know, kicking the can, but to me, this needs to be deferred. Give the board an opportunity to continue to meet, do the right thing, and spend this money for it was intended purpose. You know what I mean? That's just my thought, and I just felt like I needed to say that.
Let me say something, if you're done.
Yeah, I'm done.
And in relate to what Mr. Talbert said, that if we do defer this, that money will be gone. Let me just say this. If that money is spent by that board, they are required by law to spend that in that district. They're required to spend it on recreation. So if the problem fixes itself by them spending it where the board members think it needs to be spent for the recreation, they're legally bound to do it the right way. It's not like they're stealing the money. They're putting it where it needs to go. We're just giving them a timeline. You better hurry up and do it or the new council is going to abolish it. I'm just saying so just to allude that they're getting rid of the money. They are, but we're putting the pressure on them to spend it soon for the children in that district. So
they can't just do that because you got to have approval from JT.
You got it. Yeah, there's only two facilities they can spend the money in, and the town owns both of them. So they have to have approval from the mayor and his council to be able to spend them, to do any improvements to the facility.
They could spend it at Coyell Ballpark, couldn't they?
No, because that's its own district now, and that's their money.
So the only place to spend it is in the town of Livingston.
Right. It's the two facilities that the town of Livingston owns.
But if you dissolve it, you could. If you dissolve it, actually you could, because the way it's voted in, there wasn't no 60-40 split. Then it would go that way. I don't want it that way. I want the money to stay there, but I think the board ought to have the opportunity to spend the money.
So you say if we dissolve the board, then the parish council,
it'll still say on the finance report, Rec District 7 money, and it would still have to be spent in Rec District 7, just like mosquito abatement was
so
done.
it can never be spent down to Coyell Ballpark, whether
I'm sorry, I said
we
the M word.
absolve the board or whether we don't absolve the board.
You abolish it, then it goes back to the people that pay their taxes.
No, it stays in Rec 7.
It'll always
be in Rec 7.
What was it voted on?
It'll always be in Rec 7. That is Rec 7's money, period.
I'll tell you what,
Jennifer can answer that more than anybody.
Yes, you're correct.
Yeah.
Money is restricted for use, specific use.
And a good example is you got a line item for mosquito abatement, and I didn't mean that for anything. You can't spend it.
Well, we could spend that, but
I don't think you can, huh?
That's all.
Only on mosquito abatement.
Or cleaning ditches.
Mosquito abatement.
It is. We talked about that.
got a motion on the floor.
Circle back to that.
Yeah, I've got one little thing to put in. So,
Mr. King, you had something to say?
yeah, so, we were talking about letting the next council handle it, and I have no problem with that. If we abolished it tonight, they could put a board back in place of their own choosing.
That's too hard.
Why is it? We put boards in place all the time.
It's easy to abolish it by ordinance, but to put one in place, I would think it would take.
You're not going to need one. Look, when this $128,000, when it's spent, it's gone. There's no more money coming in. There's no tax. The tax failed. They're just trying to get their money, do what they can with it, and it's over with. Just like Coyell, they spent their money. It's over with. Yep. We're just trying to do the same thing on the north side of the interstate. That's all. We're just We just want our money up there and do what we can with it. That's all. We got 2 facilities we can spend it in.
What are they?
Circle Drive and LPR baseball field.
And they're both located
Both
within the
are
city
owned by
limits,
the town.
or town limits of Livingston.
Yeah.
Mr. Delat, we have your motion to defer this. You keeping your motion in place? You're going to defer? You're going to withdraw it?
I don't know what y'all want to do. I don't, we can vote on it. We can withdraw it.
I feel that I still think we should just abolish it, finish this out, and just let the next council and the mayor work together on projects.
Yes, my heart wasn't in this, and it always was a fund where the people couldn't spend the money. Only certain people was able to spend the money over here. Now you have a board that can actually spend the money. That's the only problem I got. It's a personal, just like.
Look, if they would have been having meetings and just saying no, but they ain't even having meetings.
Hold on, we're just repeating ourselves now. Miss Sandifer, last one. I'm going to let Miss Sandifer head that last speak, and I'm calling for the vote after this.
I just don't understand the back and forth. This has been, you said 4.5 years. Maybe you could have brought it up before now, Mr. Ard. Can we just call for the vote and let this go, hopefully, to the next councilman and let them handle it? It sounds like a money grab, and everybody's fighting over money. Just stop. Let's just call for the vote and pass it, and hopefully it'll go to the next council.
Let's call for the substitute motion for Mr. Delatz to send this to the next council, let them, with the board intact. So I guess
I'd like to withdraw the motion.
All right, so we're going to go back to Mr. Talbert's motion to, I believe it was Mr. Talbert's. No, it was Mr. Ard's motion to abolish the Rec District 7. It had a second by Mr. Girlinghouse. Call for the vote.
Mr. Keene?
Yes.
Mr. Talbert?
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. Delat?
And this is, which one we're voting on?
Jeff Ard's.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
No.
Ms. Sandifer?
No.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. McMorris?
No.
Motion carried. All right. What item was that, by the way?
It was,
Yes is item 15.
what we got next?
16
All
is
right.
next, public hearing.
Next item is public hearing and adoption of LP ordinance number 2342, amending Article 4 zoning districts, Division 4, residential single-family section, permitted uses to include mobile homes. Mr. Mack had this spoken at the ordinance committee meeting, and I believe it's on the agenda. So let's hear by
Item.
let's read it by title first, Miss Angie. Thank you.
Okay, this is ordinance number 2342, an ordinance to amend Chapter 117 zoning, Division 4, R-2 residential, single-family by amending Section 117-156, permitted uses to include mobile/manufactured homes in Part A, allowed uses of the Code of Ordinances of Livingston Parish. This ordinance also will be effective upon adoption.
All right, public hearing. Is anyone here to speak for or against this specific ordinance? Come on up.
Jeremy Glasscock, 2996 Old Marsh Drive, Livingston, Louisiana. I got a question. Shane, I was at the ordinance meeting, a lot of good talk at that one. Somehow this was supposed to be an R2 and it got deleted, and Miss Sandy was going to go find when it got deleted. Did she ever find when it supposedly got deleted?
This is the public hearing, by the way. The public hearing is open, so if anyone has anything else to say after this, go ahead. Continue.
Now, this is modification of the R2 classification where mobile homes was never
Right, I know
allowed.
what it is. The
Okay,
fact that the
so-
ordinance meeting was alluded that it had got mistakenly deleted from R2.
No, it was that never
Correct.
happened. It was never in there.
All right,
And
so-
so this basically is going to add it. And
Right,
you're
so,
gonna
yeah, so this is my thing. For the past year, I've seen people that come up here that needed a place to lay their head. Mr. McMorris, a couple months ago, a guy come up here. He couldn't put his trailer up. Mr. McMorris got him that very night. Y'all took care of him. And turns out I know some of his relatives, so I would like to thank Mr. McMorris because that ease the burden from that family. And I think if somebody comes up here in the month of December for wanted, hey, I need a place to put my trailer, y'all are going to do the same thing like y'all been doing all year and taking care of the people. But as far as just say, hey, let's change this right now when we got 2 meetings left for the year, I'd say like y'all been doing. This is a pretty major change. Y'all might not believe it, but if I own 2 acres, I can throw 8 pads up there in the next 2 months and pull 8 trailers in on the next door neighbor. So I'm not saying it shouldn't be in there, because I got no problem with my neighbor having a trailer. I live in a subdivision, but so I would like to see y'all defer it, because that could be a major change. And I feel confident y'all going to, if somebody comes up and says, hey man, I need a trailer for my family, that y'all are going to grant that waiver and y'all are going to take care of the citizens. But I don't think y'all need to change it with 2 meetings left on this council term. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glasscock. Anyone else in the audience here to speak for or against this specific ordinance? None being, I will hereby close the public
I got a question.
comment and public hearing. Mr. Ard.
I don't know, probably Shane or Gary might be able to answer this. So what Jeremy is saying about putting 4 trailers on the acre because R2 allows 4 divisions, I think, shouldn't the trailers still have to follow the trailer ordinance where you can only put 2 trailers per acre like we're doing right now? I mean, that just allows you to split the land in 4 lots, but you got to have a certain amount of land for a trailer.
I can try to answer that.
You still have to have a certain amount of land. And I might be wrong. That's why I'm
think
asking.
Jeff's right. We're dealing with definitions. That's what we're dealing with.
So you want me to try to answer this? Gary, if I'm wrong, you could
Go
add
ahead.
in later.
I just...
Okay, so there's, 4 council districts zoned in Livingston Parish? I guess one of them's questionable. So if you're in a council district that's zoned and it's zoned R2, then there is lot sizes. You can have the density ordinance is for the rest of Livingston Parish. It's not for the council districts that are zoned. So you can have 4 lots per acre. Yeah, you still got to meet state law requirements, but you can have, depending on what type of sewer system, 12,000 square foot lots. And say you had an acre or 2, yeah, you could come in there and you could chop it up, and you still got to meet the minor subdivision requirements, right? But I mean, if you laid it all out right, you could put 8 lots and 8 trailers. You could do that because R2 allows for 4 lots per acre, right? So the density law doesn't apply. But now I'm thinking one of your questions was, if it's a named subdivision intended for stick-built homes, that law would still apply. You couldn't do it, right? This would be for rural area zoned R2. So that's basically what that is.
Unzoned areas of the parish, density is 2.5.
Right.
Zoned areas of the parish is how it's set forth. R2 allows 4 lots an acre. If you make this amendment, he's exactly right. 2 acres, put 8 trailers on it. That's the way it's set. That's why R2 originally did not have trailers in it, because you could put mini trailer parks all over the place. And so as long as you have R2, if you put the trailer part in there, there's nothing to stop mini trailer parks based on 1, 2, 3, 4 acres. As long as you can generate the road frontage based on minor resubs.
Mr. Garlinghouse?
Unless you change the definition of R2, which we can't do tonight. I was for this, but Mr. Glasscup brought up a good point. I'm not okay with 4 houses per acre, 4 trailers per acre, or 4 houses, but I'm not okay with that. If it, do you think if someone has a piece of property and they wanted to put 2 or something close to that, I don't know if we have time to change the language, so I'm in agreement. I think we should go case by case and let zoning and flush it out like that. I mean, but I do think that definition needs to be changed. But that'll be for Mr. Goff.
I was going to say the new team's going to do that.
Mr. DeLapp.
Okay, I was just like Tracy. I thought this was an easy fix, but Mr. Glasscock did bring up something that I'm against. Is there some way to amend the existing ordinance to say something that you can only, R2 means only one trailer, not 8 trailers?
I think you would have to do that through Mr. Villavaso and
Let's just start all over. Let's just vote to deny this one, and then just kill this ordinance. Sorry, Shane. And then.
Okay, so we need to clarify that. This wasn't me pushing this.
We were just trying to.
My name is on there, but I didn't push this.
On this was what it was about. Everybody was coming in every meeting
so you
and
withdraw
giving
your
4 or 5 waivers.
I'm just saying, I was with you 100% until I wasn't.
I never
Are you
made
gonna
that.
make a motion? So
I'm not sure he's with himself
if there's
right
no
now.
motion, is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
No.
If there is not, that motion dies for a lack of a second. The next item, 17, Mr. Shane Mack again, introduction of ordinance. This is not a public hearing nor adoption. This is for introduction. Carbon capture sequestration regulations of Class 6 wells. We went through this in detail at the ordinance committee. I believe those regulations have been in our packet, I believe.
They're not on this packet.
Nope.
They were handed out earlier, about 20 minutes ago.
Okay.
Hang on.
Not yet.
Right here.
They're right there.
So I tell you what, let's take these, let's look them over,
Two papers.
He didn't pass it down.
and,
Oh, it's two papers in there?
That's not.
yeah,
No, it's front and back.
and I tell you what, let's pass this out.
The mini here, there.
We're gonna take a, why don't you just go ahead and go, and I'll keep it running.
Oh,
Go ahead.
it's just front and back, I think.
And then, let's get a motion, just introduce it, and we'll talk about it at the next council meeting, if y'all fine with that.
I'm totally good with that.
Motion to introduce by Mr. Mack,
as an introduction.
Yeah, I'll
as
second.
an introduction, then we'll pick it up next one.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Girlinghouse.
Read it by title.
Yeah, you got to read it.
Gotta
Let's read by title, please.
Okay, this is proposed ordinance number 23-43, an ordinance to create Article XII, Article 12, permitting and regulations for carbon sequestration, Section 42-536, Class 6, which is VI wells, to establish definitions, permitting procedures, and regulations for Class 6 CO2 wells as set out within and for the parish of Livingston, state of Louisiana. The public hearing will be on December 14th, 2023 at 6 p.m.
December the 14th. We'll be gone.
All right, motion by Mr. Mack, second by Mr. Girlinghouse. Call for the vote, please.
Okay,
We don't call, right?
you ready?
Yes.
Want me to go ahead and
Call
call?
for the vote, Angie.
Mr. Keene?
Yes.
Mr. Talbert?
No.
Mr. Garlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. Delat?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer?
She abstained.
Ord? Mr. Ord?
Yes.
Mr. McMorris? Yes. Okay.
And that motion carries?
Yeah.
So it'll be introduced at the next parish
December
council meeting
14th.
for adoption.
It'd be public hearing December 14th.
Yep. Item 18, introduction of an ordinance.
Can we hold off on that one and come back to it?
Sure.
Do we not have a copy of the ordinance?
Can we go to 19?
You to abstain.
Okay, what'd you do?
On the abstain. You can change it if you want.
For what?
Introduction.
Introduction. for
This
the,
is
You might want to change your vote.
I would have voted, yeah, it's okay. It passed, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's just introduction.
So 19 is just 2 pages?
Actually vote on.
So you want to pull 18 for tonight?
Not pull,
I
come
mean,
back to
pull-
it, and if we could go to 19.
Circle back to it.
Pull 19, you saying?
No, we're not pulling anything. If we could just skip 18
Skip
right now,
18
come
and
back
come
to
back
it,
to it.
and just move on.
Okay.
We can come back to it later. Miss Angie's working on it.
Okay, she's still working on 18.
Yeah.
We got this
All right. Introduction of ordinance. This will be, you want to read this by title, so I don't have to?
Introduction of ordinances. So this would be number 2344.
Type C roads, section 5813, criteria for accepting roads in the parish.
19. So this is proposed ordinance number 23-44, an ordinance to amend section 58-6, type C roads, section 58-13, 3 and 4, criteria for accepting existing roads into the parish maintenance system, section 125-179C, road road width requirements in Section 127-8C with requirements to correct the wording of Section 125-17 to reflect 125-77 of the Code of Ordinance of Livingston Parish. The public hearing will be December 14th, 2023 at 6 p.m.
All right, so
Can I ask Shane a question?
Please.
Is this all housekeeping, or is there some substantial change?
You're correct. This is just housekeeping. The verbiage, the wording in the ordinance, there's no changes. This is actually in Muni Code, but it's not referenced correctly. So when you go to look up the information or try to find the information, it's hard to find. We thought it was deleted, but it wasn't, because it wasn't referenced properly. So we're just trying to reference it correctly. So
I have one more question.
Go ahead.
On 5813-3, it says gravel roads must have 20-foot surface, right?
It does.
And if you go down to 125-179C.
Say that again. Which one?
125-179C, it references a 18 and 20-foot road requirement. You know what why? And then in 127-8, it references a 18 and 20-foot road requirement.
Yeah.
So is that the page?
I think I can answer that question. Okay, so 125, 179, the 18-foot width requirement and the 20-foot width requirement, that was added by me and this council. We wanted to set some minimum road width requirements whenever you were subdividing property on parish roads. Okay, remember when we did that?
Right.
Stuff, right?
That just happens to be in the section.
Okay, so it has
that has nothing to do with the criteria.
That's all I wanted to know.
You just want to make sure it didn't contradict each other.
Yeah, that's all I was looking for.
Cool.
motion to adopt and introduce the ordinance?
Yeah, we need to introduce it.
Motion by Mr. Mack,
Second.
second by Mr. King. All in favor say yes.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. One more introduction of ordinance to a definition for large lot subdivisions. You want to read this by title, Miss Angie.
This is an introduction, so the next number is 23-45.
Is it just one page?
Yes, from what I was given, yes, sir. This is proposed ordinance number 23-45, an ordinance to amend Chapter 125 subdivision regulations, Article 1 in general by amending Section 125-1 definitions that defines the term large lot subdivisions of the Code of Ordinances of Livingston Parish. The public hearing will be December 14th, 2023 at 6 p.m.
All right. You want to
It's real simple.
make it quick?
Yeah, all we're really doing here, team, is we're putting a cap on how many lots you can have when you're developing a large lot subdivision, right? We talked about large lot subdivisions earlier tonight with the woodland subdivision stuff. That's you know, the 3-acre density requirement, 3 acre per lot density requirement, but you can have 2-acre lots within the development. You can have gravel roads and all that stuff, right? We talked about the sewer systems. My thought there was when we created this ordinance, you know, for the Watts family there, it was a good ordinance, but I don't think it was ever intended to be, you know, 90, 100, 125 lots, you know, on a gravel road. It was really supposed to be something a lot smaller than that, you know, 20, 30 lots on a gravel road or limestone road. So this ordinance is being introduced tonight. We're going to cap that, and we're going to say the maximum amount of lots you can have if you're developing under the large lot subdivision ordinance is 40, and that's basically all this is.
All right.
And I want to make a motion to introduce
that by Mr. Shane Mack. Is there a second?
I'll second it. But
Second by Mr. Girlinghouse. Discussion.
yeah, 40 was a number. Just okay. I mean, I'm just curious where that number come from. Like, you know,
it's You can call it arbitrary if you want. I mean, we just felt like, we got feedback from multiple people, and we felt like that, 40 was the right number.
Excellent.
Mr. Delat, had a question.
Shane, so what you're saying, it needs 120 acres to do 40 lots? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that is what I'm
If you had
saying.
270, you could do 90, but everybody had sold them 270, so now we've broken down to 120.
Right.
All right, is there a second?
I second.
Oh, that's right. Motion by Mr. Mack, second by Mr. Garlinghouse. Miss Angie, call for the vote.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Talbert?
No.
Mr. Garlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. Delat?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yeah.
Ms. Sandifer? Yes. Mr. Ord?
Yes.
Mr. McMorris?
Yes.
Okay, passes.
He said yes. All right, that motion carried. All right, that was item 20. Let's go ahead and do item 21, adopt a resolution to authorize a waiver of section 12537 requirements for minor subdivision for the lots on the servitude located off of Dawson Crossing for Sarah Jones in District 8. Mr. Rand, you familiar with this?
No. I think it's my understanding she has 5-6 acres, and she wants to divide it into 2 for her children. She's the second lot on the road, and I'm not even looking at it. I'm just going by memories. You got it? But I'm going to ask that we grant the waiver.
Motion by Mr. Delat for the waiver, second by Mr. Garlinghouse. Any discussion? Come on up, give us your name and address, please. Yes, sir.
Matthew Desatel, 25912 Dawson Crossing in Livingston. Did you say it was 2 total, or they're going to try to divide it into 3?
Like 3.
I think it's 2.
2.7, 1.0, and 1.2.
3. 2 total, though, right? I mean, 3 total, 2 lots.
Yeah.
So that's a private road, and we're okay with them dividing in 2. She said for family, so we understand that, but we're trying. We brought it to council 3 different times with other properties on that street, and y'all have denied it each time for us.
So is my understanding they have their own servitude? That 40-foot servitude is not on that street? Is that what we're looking at? That's what I'm looking at.
On that street, yes, sir.
Pardon me?
They'll have to have 3 servitudes if they on that. Correct? On Dawson
Not what
Crossing?
I'm looking at. Is there anybody here to talk? Is only the existing lot that's on there now?
Yes, sir.
That servitude still would be on the street, okay? But that existing lot is going to be divided into 3 with that 40-foot servitude.
Okay.
So your traffic would be 3, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
That's what we're trying to minimize, to not have 3 on that road.
Okay.
Because that's going to increase it. We maintain it ourselves because it's a private road at this time.
Right.
And like I said, I know you don't want to hear any more about the sewage, but we all do have the sprinkler systems. And I know that when my neighbors flush the toilet and it gets full, I know.
Yes, sir.
And when I flush our toilets enough, they know.
So is that track that I'm looking at is the track that's being divided? Is it wooded now, or is someone living?
They cleared it.
It's cleared?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is anybody here on it to speak on it?
Mr. Ladd has something.
You know something about it?
You want to come say something?
Your wife.
I'm not trying to take away. You're going to. Nothing against family.
Come to the
planning department.
Okay. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
So this track is for her and her 2 kids. It's like a 5-point-something acre, and she has 2 children and is splitting it up for them. The severity of, or the needing to get it done now, her son is wanting to buy a house. So originally he was going to put a mobile home, but he's going to build a house. So she's having to subdivide it for the kids so they can build.
If not, you can't.
Correct.
Right.
If they was putting a mobile home, she could have kept it.
Right.
But the lenders are requiring it to be subdivided for the loan. Yes.
Been hearing that for 8 years.
Right.
Yep,
Right.
same thing, yep.
Right. One track
Okay.
is for the son, one's for the daughter, and then she's retaining the back for herself.
Mr. Desatel, is he still here? Can he come back?
Oh, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So I understand what she's saying about the financial part, but I understand what you're saying too. And it's a tough decision for me, but it's hard for me to not let her, being she's so close to the road, not let her divide that. It seems like that's the second lot on the road. Is that true?
It is, yes, sir. There's just traffic up and down.
It's the second lot, and the other two lots that's being created is going to be on their own servitude, but they do have to come off the, what road is the main road?
Dawson Crossing. They will not be able to come off of Oliver Wheat, no, sir.
Okay. I'm still going to ask to grant it, and I understand the situation, but I would be straight with you. I'm going to have to ask to grant that. We've been doing it, so.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Delat to
turn down the other ones.
grant the waiver, second by Mr. Girlinghouse. Any more discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Is there any opposed? That motion carries unanimously, I do believe.
If you want to go back to 18. And
All right, let's jump back up.
Introduction.
Let's jump back up to 18. This is an introduction for legal description for meets and bounds for the council district. Mr. Eddie Idell worked really hard on this. And if so, you want to read it by title, Angie?
Yes. Let me see what number this would be.
Eddie, getting your money's worth tonight, buddy.
86.
Amen.
He ain't had to say a word all night. He's good at that.
You want me to read now?
Yes, read by title, please.
Okay, this is proposed ordinance number 23-46, an ordinance to amend LP number 22-44 pertaining to section 2-1, reapportionment of parish district boundary changes to provide updates and enhancements to the legal meets and bounds of the Livingston Parish nine council districts as to the effect of the 2020 reapportionment following the 2020 U.S. Census. The public hearing will be December 14th, 2023 at 6 p.m.
Does this affect District 5 Deer Run? Is this a zoning deal? By rule, this thing shouldn't even be on the council agenda.
I got something to say there.
Didn't see nothing about Deer
Hold on,
Run.
Mr. Idell.
For those of you I hadn't spoke to, it was requested that we prepare you guys some new zoning maps based on the reapportionment. So we received the maps and the legal descriptions from the parish. There was a few discrepancies, and there was some clarifications that needed to be made to the legal to make them match the maps that you guys had adopted. So it didn't, we said, hey, these are the maps that the council adopted, so we just made the descriptions match them. That's all it was, I don't know if you want to use the word housekeeping, but there were some areas where the descriptions didn't match the maps. So we're making these recommendations to you guys so that the legal descriptions 100% match the maps that you guys adopted.
Yep. I'd like to make the motion.
Second.
Mr. Mack, second by Mr.
Wait.
Delat.
I'm trying to figure out how did it get on the agenda?
Second the motion.
Well, it's on the agenda. It's item number.
I requested it be on there.
I
It's an
understand, but y'all
introduction.
passed a rule 2 meetings ago that dealt with zoning and said no zoning items could be put on the agenda by
Gary,
rule.
this ain't got nothing to do with that.
That's exactly what this has
No,
to
it
do with.
does not. This is,
Is this got to do with zoning?
no,
It's not changing zoning.
it's not changing that.
It's just changing
The definitions.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Just showing which zones are in which districts. Not-
Ask Eddie.
This has nothing to do with zoning, guys.
I know.
This is the legal descriptions for the boundaries of the districts.
Council districts.
It really is nothing to do. At least, that's not what we were, we didn't.
I thought y'all reapportioned it based on zoning. It's not, you said zoning in the discussion, didn't you?
No.
Nobody said that.
Okay, I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
It's the legal descriptions for the district boundaries.
All right, we
not
got a
the
motion by
zoning
Mr.
boundaries.
Mack, seconded by
Delat.
Mr. Delat.
I'll stand corrected.
Apologies
I
in order?
apologize.
Is that an apology?
I thought it was.
Okay.
I thought it was for zoning. I stand corrected.
Let's call for the vote, Ms. Angie.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Talbert?
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. Delat?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Hey, I got a question. Did you read that by title?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yes.
Ms.
I'll do so.
Sandifer? Yes. Mr. Ord?
Yes.
Mr. McMorris? Passes.
All right, that motion
Passes at 22.
Carries.
22 carries.
Thank you.
Eddie, thank you so much.
Good job, Eddie.
Jeez.
22.
What's that, 22?
Yep.
Amend, rescind LPR number 463 adoption on November 9th, 2023, which authorized the entirety of Section 12537 requirements for minor subdivision will be waived for Ramona James on Bend Road. Ms. Sandifer asked this to be put on the agenda. Can I turn this over to you?
Yes. So I think that I made a mistake. I think we made a mistake. We waived an entire ordinance for this, and that is not what was recommended. The planning department, the planning department did call the council office to make the correction, saying that they did not recommend that. What they recommended was to waive the definition of the number of lots. And so we need to amend that.
Look, the waiver's been granted. The maps have been signed. The maps have been filed. A house has been sold with 3 acres. We can't rescind anything.
Did you know that? Did you know that when it passed that way? Because on the agenda, it said Section 12537, subsection 6.
If you will go back,
I'm talking.
You asked me a question.
I'm not finished. I'm trying to explain to you what I'm talking about. On the agenda, it said 120 on the published agenda, 12537 subsection 6. Okay. And that was pulled while I was sitting here. And when I come here, I am prepared and I'm on track. So it did get past me. And I was wrong for passing that. And I can go back and read the minutes because I think you explained that the waiver is to waiver as they, as Natalie says, need a waiver of 12537. That's not what she said. She said to waive the definition of the number of lots. So we waived an entire ordinance. It's a big, long ordinance, too, and you know it is. And so we need to amend that. We got to do what's right.
The waiver doesn't exist anymore. The waiver's done. The waiver was granted. The map was filed. The waiver's over.
Did you know that? Did you know all this when you went forward with it?
I read as Randy, the discussion was, I didn't feel like it needed a waiver anyway. And I thought if it needed a waiver, it just needed a number of the lots. But if I'm not mistaken, the correspondence, Sandy, do you have the email from planning?
That's Andrew.
And then, basically we said that my understanding from the email is they wanted the ordinance waived. That's what I interpreted. And I didn't think it needed a waiver anyway. But I didn't want to hold the deal up anymore because the people were trying to sell property. We waived the ordinance, the map got signed, the waiver's done.
So
Well, I guess, for ceremonial reasons, so that the public knows, I voted wrong. I feel like I completely was misinformed and misunderstood, and I don't think it's right to waive the entire ordinance.
Natalie emailed me this afternoon.
Okay, I'm going to read the intent of this waiver is not to waive the entirety of Section 12537, but to waive the number of lots allowed to be a minor resub. To authorize a waiver of Section 12537 requirements for minor subdivisions of the Livingston Parish Code of Ordinances to allow 13 lots to be done as a minor resub for Ramona James being located at Section 46 TSS R2E east of St. Helena Meridian, Greensburg Land District, Parish of Livingston on Bend Road in Council District 2.
Yeah, that's how the motion was offered. The motion was offered to waive the entire ordinance. That's what we voted on.
That's
how the motion was put forward.
Brad, can she just change her vote?
Yes, you can.
You can't change a vote.
You can reconsider. She can reconsider. This is next meeting.
What she wants to do.
If a waiver for variance is granted by ordinance, and we amend the ordinances all the time.
But it's already
Okay, but
done.
it's not, a waiver is not granted by ordinance.
I'm looking at I wasn't here last meeting, but I'm kind of looking over the minutes. I haven't seen them before.
We did a resolution waiving the ordinance. The ordinance was then sent, the waiver was then sent to planning. Planning signed the map. The homeowner, the property owner then took the map and filed it, which made the lots done. And then one of the lots was sold. You can't back up on what you've done.
Ms. Senator, would you be willing to go on record as changing your vote and that suffice?
I mean, yeah.
All right.
I think that it's not okay what happened. I want to say that on public record as well. I think something that might add up.
Well, it's
Mr.
pretty
Talbert.
simple. It's pretty simple. There were 3 separate tracts of land. So tract 1 was cut into 3 lots. Tract 2 was cut into 4.
Are you okay with
cut
it?
into 6, and tract 3 was cut into 4.
So if
all of them met the density requirements. The only issues were they weren't on the servitude. They weren't on. Wait a second. Planning then said because all 3 tracts were on the same map, they had to be considered together in the total number, which is crud because we cut the.
I got you. I got what you're saying. That's enough. We're not fixing nothing. She said she's happy with making a record that her vote has been changed. Let's move on.
That's all we can do.
Let's go back to item. Shoot.
We covered everything on that first page. If you're looking at.
From me a while ago. It's the same
Yeah,
situation.
we're going back to
They
item
put it on the maps, and it's not the same road. So I understand what you're saying. I'm with you.
Let's go back to item 8 and 9.
Not prepared.
I got a text, Mr. Ryan, Mr. Cascio, would you explain this one, please?
Yeah, this is Jim Ryan's area, but he said that 8 and 9 should not have been on this night's agenda. So we just need a motion to withdraw 8 and 9.
A motion to withdraw consideration of action for April 27th. So there will not be consideration of action on April 27th. Motion by Mr.
I'll make it.
Second.
Jeff R., second by Mr. Delat on items 8 and 9 to be withdrawn, and that will, as not a public notice. All in favor say yes?
Yes.
Is there any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Thank y'all. Let's see.
Oh, come on.
3?
Yeah, I tell you what, before we get to 23, which it's going to be a doozy too, we're going to take up the second half of tonight's council meeting. Go to addendums.
Lord have mercy.
Item A1, introduction of the 2023 budget amendments and 2024 budget, Parish President's Office, Ms. Jennifer Myers. What do you need, a motion to, we need to read this ordinance by title?
This is an introduction. We're going to have to read it, give it a number.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this would be 47. Okay, hang on. Whew. Okay, this is proposed ordinance number 23-47, an ordinance amending the 2023 budget and adopting the 2024 budget of the Livingston Parish President Council relative to the general fund, special revenue funds, debt service funds, and capital improvement funds. The public hearing will be on December 14th, 2023 at 6 p.m.
Ms. Myers.
Okay, so what you have in front of you is the amendment of the 2023 budget and the introduction or proposition of the 2024 budget. I introduced this at finance, and me and Mr. Rainey kind of got a little off in the weeds here. I didn't understand what he was asking me, and it took me a little minute, but the difference in what was originally presented to y'all and approved last year, so last year we would have amended the 22 and proposed the 23. The changes from the proposed 23 last year and the amended 23 this year are simply items that y'all have approved all year long. So when myself or Mr. Layton or Mark comes up here and gets approval from you guys to enter into an agreement, so $10 million of the change is all of the NRCS funding that has hit during the year. Another $6 million of the change is all of the FMA funding that is hit during the year for acquisitions and elevations. So sometimes we won't know until during the year when those funds get obligated for us to move forward on that we're even getting those funds. So if you'll notice in the yearly summary, if you look from 2023 of $116 million, in 2024 that number is only $60.5 million. So that's because there are some grants that we have not been obligated for yet. Once the BCAs are put forward and they decide that it's a good project to move forward with, and those funds are obligated to us, then we'll recognize them on here. So this number could double, the 2024 number could double depending on the amount of grants that roll down to us. Also, the huge disparity from 23 to 24 total numbers is ARPA funds. So those ARPA funds that we received were deferred. They weren't recognized as revenue because they were federal funds that we received up front, so you don't recognize those as revenue until you spend them. So this year is where the bulk of that $27 million is getting spent because those projects got approved and took a long time to get together and start that funding rolling down.
I want to say that's a great explanation, and that's what I was looking for.
It took me I'm a little slow. It's the end of the week. Sorry.
Is there a motion to introduce this ordinance to adopt this budget?
I will.
Motion by Mr. Delat, seconded by Mr. Girlinghouse. Any discussion? All in favor say yes. Yes. All right. Any opposed? That motion carries. This ordinance will be introduced at the next, will be on the agenda for the next council meeting to be adopted. Item A3, introduction of ordinance to acquire immovable property for the parish of Livingston pursuant to hazard mitigation grant.
A2. You want to jump?
Oh, I'm sorry. A2, adopt a resolution to accept low bid for the new corner building. Ms. Jennifer.
So this is something that has been in the works for a while. We've discussed it and not really got into the details of it, but we are trying to facilitate a new coroner's building so that we can do our autopsies in-house instead of having to farm those out and ship the people to Broussard, which is a transportation cost, and then it's like $2,600 per autopsy, not including the separate lab fees. So it's become extremely expensive that we can't do autopsies here.
I'll make the motion.
Motion.
This will be paid for with ARPA funds.
By Mr. Delat, seconded by Mr. McMorris. For the resolution to accept the low bid. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
That motion carries. Item A3, introduction of ordinance to acquire movable property for the parish of Livingston pursuant to Hazard Mitigation Grant Program Project FEMA 4277. This is David May, 14270 Clay May Lane.
Who's that?
I think it's, is that, we looked at it today. Was that in your district, Aaron?
Not this one. Wait a minute, let me look. Yes, that is in my
You want
district.
to make a motion?
Okay, I'll motion.
Motion by
I'll
Ms.
second it.
Sandifer.
By title and set the date.
Please, read by title.
Okay, this is proposed ordinance number 23-48, an ordinance to acquire movable property for the parish of Livingston pursuant to the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, project number FEMA-FEMA-4277-DR-LA-0131- Livingston Parish. Public hearing will be December 14th, 2023 at 6 p.m.
All right. Motion by Ms. Sandifer, seconded by Mr. Delat, I believe it was.
Yes.
All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All right, that motion carried. A4 is basically the same thing in ordinance. You want to read by title?
Yes. It just says
Acquire movable
my
property.
number. Okay. Okay, this is proposed ordinance 23-49, an ordinance to acquire movable property for the parish of Livingston pursuant to the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, project number FEMA-4277-DR-LA-0131- Livingston Parish. Public hearing will be on December 14th, 2023 at 6 p.m.
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Sandifer, second by Mr. Mack.
Is this the same person?
It's not.
It's typically the same area, so they all have similar last names. It's like it's relatives that all live on the same road because we're acquiring those properties on the same.
Yeah, you've got a,
Okay.
1427.
All in favor say yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Two different.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item A5, I believe we're on.
Yes.
Adopt a resolution authorizing the parish president to enter a contract agreement with Fort and Tablada to perform engineering services for the Old Mill Settlement Road project being funded through the State Louisiana Act 397 to 2023 state aid to local government entities, grants department. You know about this, Jennifer?
Yes, sir. These are all things that will change the 2024 numbers should they get approved, and those monies get obligated, then this is the type of thing that will amend the 24 numbers, because we'll add them in once they're obligated.
Right. As far as that, I know the project is for the elevation of the road for the old settlement trace. And motion by Mr.
Second.
McMorris, second by Mr. Delat. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
That motion carried. Item 6, a resolution authorizes the parish president to execute the contract between Livingston Parish Council and Macklin Construction for the low bidder for HMGP 4277 funded Fire District 5 for the safe room project. Jennifer, you know anything about that one?
This is our second go-round on this project. It's 100% funded.
Is there a motion?
Read that number.
Motion. Motion by Mr. Ard. Second by Mr. Girlinghouse. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All right, I believe. Any opposed? That motion carries as well. Item A7, adopt a resolution authorizing the parish to use American Rescue Plan Act ARPA funds to cover the Livingston Parish Airport Sewer District Sewer System Project. Ms. Jennifer, you know anything about this one?
Yes, sir. We've already done the mitigation required on this project, and the funds are earmarked for the sewer district. We just need the approval.
This was money left over, and is there a motion?
I make.
Motion by Mr. Girlinghouse, seconded by Mr. Delat. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
That motion carries. Item A8, adopt a resolution clarifying that the Livingston Executive Airport project has been in its planning and design phase since 2017. The project has now obtained its required wetlands mitigation credits and permits, allowing construction to begin in phase 1. And
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Delat makes the motion. Second by Mr. Girlinghouse. Any discussion?
Andy, does that mean they can move forward from now on? From now on, they can move forward?
Yeah, that's what it's about.
All in favor say yes?
Yes.
No.
Okay, got one no. No.
Okay, let's call the roll then.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Talbert?
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. Delat?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer?
Yes.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. McMorris?
All right. Item A9, adopt a resolution for approval for forensic audit. Mr. Delat?
I just want to adopt a resolution to ask for bids, not to hire anybody.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Delat, ask for bids for forensic audit. Second by Mr. King. Any discussion? None being, let's call for the vote.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Talbert?
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. Delat?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer?
Yes.
Mr. Ord?
Yes.
Mr. McMorris?
Motion carried. All right, item A10, adopt a resolution to approve a waiver to divide in a named subdivision located at 16355 Black Mud Road for Jonathan Ball for the division of Lot E, Pine Heavens Estates. This is in Mr. Girlinghouse's district.
Yeah, this property was already divided. I don't know if you look at.
Yeah. 403 of 12.
Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, this, I guess it didn't show on the map. This property was already divided in 2019. July, it looks like July of 2019. This gentleman, the two pieces of the property already had trailers on it, and he wanted the ability to put put them on the other pieces of property. The problem was it was zoned, I think, light industrial, and it's on Black Mud Road. Probably would have made sense if it was one giant piece of property, but it was already chopped up with residents on it. So I'm just asking for a waiver to allow this gentleman to.
Motion by Mr. Girlinghouse, second by Mr. King. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item A11, Isabella Lakes Phase 3-5 Water Services Capacity and Fire Protection Plan. Mr. Girlinghouse.
So they came to me about 8 months back. They didn't meet the water requirement, the water, I guess it's called the fire flow or fire protection by a few pounds at the back end of that development. So I told them, no, I mean, I'm not going to do that. So they come up with a system. Then actually the fire department wasn't okay with it either, because they want to be able to have water pressure under those certain circumstances if there's a fire in the back end. So they devised a plan. They devised engineered a plan to where they would draw water from a pumping system. They're going to put in separate separate hydrants in order to get the water flow to where it needs to be, and it's fine. If you look on the list at the thing, City of Walker has signed off saying that they're good with it. They're supplying all the potable water.
So what do you, or they need
essentially they need a waiver in order to go back to use the original plan with this change in place. So
that's your motion?
That's my motion.
Second by Mr. King, motion by Mr. Girlinghouse. Any discussion? All in favor say yes?
Yes.
Is there a no? Was there a no? All in favor? All unanimous? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
I thought I heard a no, but that's all right. All right, let's get back to the agenda. Item 23, change the rule that restricts the council from rezoning properties in any council district of the parish. Mr. Gary Talbert.
Yeah, we voted last meeting to restrict it, and so I'm asking that now that we have 9 members here, let's vote again to unrestrict it. That's my motion.
Say that. Is there a second?
Yeah, second.
Motion by Mr. Talbert to allow zoning in the parish.
No, just the rule that restricts it from being on the agenda. The one that y'all passed
the one that restricts zoning from being
on the agenda. Y'all passed a rule with 9 people here. So I am putting an item on the agenda to remove the rule. Now that when there were 7 people here, now I'm doing it when
we passed 2 things last meeting. One, we authorized the council chairman and the clerk to keep Deer Run off of the agenda.
That's the one we're working on.
Okay, well, this doesn't say anything here about Deer Run, but you want to change that. That's what you want to change.
That's the rule.
So, okay, a motion by Mr. Talbert will, if it passes, will allow this.
If it passes, then you can change the rule.
Right.
So
the item on the agenda is to rescind the rule, to change the rule that restricts the council from rezoning properties in any council district of the parish.
There was 2 motions. He made one that said no zoning in the parish till after the new council.
No changing of zoning ordinance.
That's the one he made.
And I'm talking about districts. Y'all, Aaron made a rule for Deer Run that said we couldn't put it on the agenda.
That's right.
Randy's rule didn't stop us from putting it on the agenda. Aaron stopped putting it on the agenda, so I want to rescind Aaron's rule.
To undo where we can talk about Deer Run again.
In the future.
And allow the chairman to put it,
if a councilman requested, it can be put on the agenda.
Back on the agenda again.
Right.
Hey, wait a minute, clarify that motion, because you're not even supposed to be discussing that on this council right now.
What are you talking about? There was an item that we couldn't, the rule was that you put forth that we could not put an item on the agenda to change the zoning of Deer Run. I'm not talking about the Deer Run zoning. I've got an item on the agenda to remove that rule.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I make an objection. I object. This is confusing and vague and not specified on this agenda. It's not clear to the public. It's not clear to the council. Nobody really understands where you were coming from until you buy the agenda.
Brad, the item said change the rule that restricts the council from rezoning properties in any council district of the parish. And the motion is to change the rule that was adopted at the last meeting that restricts the zoning discussion of zoning on Deer Run from being put on the agenda. It clearly meets what was put forth on 23 as a public hearing.
I wasn't here at the last meeting, but the way I read your agenda item, to me, it reads that there was a rule that basically would prohibit G-Boy from amending the zoning in Scooter's district, and that you want to change that rule, not a rule about Deer Run specifically.
Well, it said any council district. Deer Run's in any council district.
Right.
That's pretty vague.
I'm gonna take up for Gary, because basically he wants to change the rule, and the rule is a rule. If we put it in, we can take it out. I'm not saying he's got the votes to do that, but he ought to have that opportunity like anybody else.
All right.
Got a motion and a second.
Well, I was trying to debate whether that's a valid motion, but, okay, well, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Larkey, do you have some input on this? Yeah, you know what? Oh, absolutely.
On a rule change for the council, would you?
Anytime we make a vote.
You raised your hand.
I did, thank you. Bobette Larkey, 17850 M. Guitro Lane, Livingston, Louisiana. I'm just going to ask y'all to hold off on this. You've hired a planner. We're paying him out of our tax dollars. He's in the process of working on all of this. So why do we want to keep changing zoning while he's working on this?
I'll answer that.
I think we need to give him a chance to finish up what he's doing and just keep everything stopped while we have it stopped. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, do you want to answer it?
Yeah, I do want to answer.
Go ahead.
As to why we need to do this, because there's a deadline and we signed a settlement. And I'm not going to be party to being able to not be able to meet that requirement of that settlement.
You put it
So
on
it
the
needs to
agenda.
go away so that we can discuss it before we get to the end of the year. Because then it's in somebody else's court and I'm still in the settlement.
It was on the agenda.
What?
Deer Run.
When? Yeah, and y'all changed it and said, no, we're going to defer it.
We put it on the agenda.
It's been on the
Three
agenda.
times
I know,
people
that's
show
right.
up here to vote, or show up to have their speech.
I
and
can't
then-
make other people show up that are councilmen.
And the landowner pulled it,
I can't
and
do
nobody
that.
could tell us who the landowner was that pulled
And
it.
they kept, it's not fair to the people in the
Then that's fine,
parish.
vote against it.
I told you why I pulled it, because there were only 7 people here, weren't 9.
And this happened multiple times.
So not when I sponsored it. When I sponsored it, we only had 7 councilmen showed up, so I pulled it.
Happened, that wasn't the first time.
Let's
Well,
keep
now
the
your
discussion to
agenda
the rules.
All right, well, let's go ahead.
Is vague.
We have Mr. Talbert's motion to Mr. Tom, did you have?
Please, sir.
Yes, absolutely.
Might make a
So,
substitute.
Tom Easterly, 450 Laurel Street, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Grand scheme of things, I was very confused when the rule was voted on several weeks back, because I was not understanding what a rule was and what the vote really was. The significance of the word rule wasn't necessarily something that I understood. So, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Wascom, what does that mean in your mind?
Well, you know, the motion was to give the chairman and the clerk the ability to keep Deer Run off of the agenda until the new council comes in.
Is there any significance in your mind to the word rule? And the reason I ask that, sir, is that this book is Robert's Rules of Order. So is this a rule of order that applies across the board to everything, or is it just a simple motion? Because there's a big difference.
That's a good question, Mr. Delay.
Yes, thank you for this floor.
Hey, I'm going to let him answer that because he's probably a little more articulate on than I am.
Basically, you're right. We do run our meetings by the Robert Rules of Orders, but we also run it by other things besides Robert Rules of Orders. We have a set of council rules that we always given when we're sworn in. We also have personnel manuals. We have all kind of things that we operate from at the chairman's discretion. The rule that we voted on that night was not in the rule book, and that's why we voted on that rule that night. Those rules are not done by ordinances, but done by resolutions, and it's done and they're made by many, many different councilmen over the years. We could pick and choose to change any rule that we want to by the Robert Rules of Orders, as long as we changing the rules in an orderly manner that's put on the agenda, and that's what we did.
Mr. Lack, could I clarify?
Sure.
So you operate under Robert's Rules of Order, but if you want to change a rule of order, is
We
otherwise.
can't change Robert Rules of Order. We can only change our personal rules. That's what we can change. We can't change Robert Rules of Order.
You can make a special rule.
We just did that last week.
I'm trying to make sure that I understand what your position is. So your position, at least, is that there was a special rule passed to deviate from Robert's Rules of Order.
No, my position is that we added a rule to our rule book, and that got passed 2 weeks ago.
You're saying that you operate based on Robert's Rules of Order, but you also
We run the
operate-
meeting on Robert Rules of Order. You say one thing, and I say something different, so we can do this all day.
Well, I'm trying to clarify. You say the council operates under Robert's Rules of Order unless there's some separate rule that's part of the packet that you get that we don't have?
We run our meetings in an orderly fashion with Robert Rules of Orders. We have a set of rules. We get one thing in the rules is we pay $20 per month for food. We have a set of rules that this was one of those rules in the book. Nothing obvious about it. It's nothing that nobody else does. It's something that all government bodies do. They have a set of rules to run by. Robert Rules of Order can't tell us when to cut the lights on and cut it off. We have to have rules. Robert Rules of Orders can't tell us who's going to be saying a prayer today or not. We have a set of rules that does all that. The way we vote, we have a set of rules. Robert Rules of Order doesn't tell us all those things. That rule was added by 7 votes. The majority of 7 votes. That's how that rule was added. I feel if you want to change that rule, you have the opportunity to change that rule. Mr. Talbot has it on there, and if he gets 5 votes, he can change that rule. Then if he puts it on the agenda next week, it's on the agenda. Next meeting is on the agenda. As simple as that.
Clarified?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I got a question. I'm sorry.
Before you get to it, I have one person in the audience want to speak. Or is there 2? Raise your hand if it's the second one. All right, just one. Go ahead.
Ryan Clemens, 34332 Robbie Lee Drive. Respectfully, Mr. Easley, these comments are for Livingston Parish residents, and I understand that it'll affect you very much, but we will discuss our business, and I think he lacks standing to call these questions.
Agreed.
Is there anyone else in the audience? Mr. Mack, you had a question?
Yeah. So the rule we passed, or it was my understanding that we decided to not put Deer Run subdivision back on the council agenda until after the new council came in, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Scooter answered Ms. Larkey's question and basically tied this agenda item to Deer Run. To me, this agenda item is not specific to Deer Run.
It's not.
It's not. To me,
this is going to allow them to put Deer Run on the next agenda is what it will do.
Well,
right, but
if it passes,
my thought is, I guess the question I have is, the rule that we passed didn't restrict rezoning properties all over Livingston Parish. The rule that we passed was specific to Deer Run, not to put Deer Run back on the council agenda. So to me, this agenda item doesn't apply because we didn't pass a rule that said you couldn't rezone property in Livingston Parish. We passed a rule that said you couldn't put Deer Run back on a subdivision. So to me, we just need to move on to the next agenda item.
It's ambiguous. It's vague.
We didn't do
that.
Randy,
I could be wrong.
Randy's fixing to answer.
I'm going to be the bad guy here. We passed 2, guys.
We passed 2 rules?
We passed 1 rule.
We passed 1 rule.
And that's what she did, and that was specific to Deer Run, okay? I did pass something that said that we wouldn't do any more zoning until the new group comes, okay? That's my understanding. He wants to change that, okay?
That's what it said here. It
Is
says,
that what you're saying, Gary?
No, but that thing you did wasn't a rule. I want to change the rule,
Okay.
which is what Aaron put forth.
Okay. So, okay. So, that's going to be up to y'all the way y'all interpret it. I'm okay interpreting it the way he interprets it. I really am. As long as you don't talk about Deer Run, then that means anybody can vote, anybody can do anything they want. He wants to change the rule. I mean, anyone should have that opportunity for our council rules. We all put the council rules in, we all voted together, and if it don't go our way, you have an opportunity to do something differently with that rule, okay? He should have the same luxury as anybody else that sits here.
I don't understand what you're saying, Mr. Gillette.
Okay, what I'm saying is, if you had the luxury to pass a law or rule, he should have the same luxury to unpass a rule or to pass a different rule or to do whatever. If we can pass rules on here, he's got to have the same opportunity to do it.
Okay, so my question is, he can pass a rule,
Correct.
but he can't bring Deer Run up. He can't pass that.
Now, but if he passes a rule that says he can, then he can do it.
2 weeks.
And that's only fair. You passed one saying he couldn't.
But then he's bringing it up.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
Right?
I see what Mr. Delotte is saying. I see what Mr. Delotte is saying. Mr. Talbert's not asking to take action on Deer Run or to zone Deer Run. He's asking to change the rule.
Allow him to.
To allow him to at the next meeting.
Well, but hold on a second. If you look at the agenda, it says to change.
No, I'm not saying how it was worded on the agenda. I agree the wording on the agenda could have been better.
Well, and the wording on the agenda alludes to Mr. Randy's motion that says change, we can't change the rezoning in the parish till the next count. So I'm saying that he should have been more clear when he made this item on the agenda and said, change Ms. Sandifer's motion that allows Deer Run to be talked about.
And you're not wrong, but I think Mr. Delotte's just trying to allow each council member an opportunity to have their voice heard and to make a rule. So if you wanted to agree with Mr. Delotte and allow Mr. Talbert to move forward under his interpretation of what he wrote, that's all he's saying.
John.
But I agree, yeah, the wording could have been better.
John, let's don't forget that last 2 weeks ago or whatever, when Ms. Sandifer made her rule, there was nothing on the agenda about a rule. The item on the agenda was strictly about the zoning of rezoning Deer Run and the related properties from the settlement agreement. And I asked to pull that item. And at that point in time, Ms. Sandifer took that item, which was on the agenda, and made a rule to stop discussing Deer Run in the future. So if you want to talk about the vagueness of a item and then changing the intent, that was a way bigger reach to change that intent than it is to put on what I wanted, the item I have on the agenda now, and ask that the rule be changed.
Okay, so I'm next.
I got one more question.
Go ahead.
I'm next. Mr. Moody agrees that my motion is relevant and stands. It was not vague, it was not confusing, and it tagged right off of yours.
Yeah, I did see an email from him. He
That's
said it
true,
wasn't
and I
here.
have that right here in an email form. Now, your agenda item changed the rule that restricts the council from rezoning properties in any council district of the parish.
That's Randy's motion.
Incredibly vague.
That was Randy's
Who
motion.
are you talking about? The public doesn't know. The agenda items are not for, it's for the public to be able to show up and speak to it. That's confusing, and nobody knows what you're talking about. How can you possibly keep this on the floor?
Brad, there's an item to discuss rescinding a rule related to zoning in any district in the parish. There's the only rule that we have that restricts that is the rule set forth by Ms. Sandifer.
That wasn't the motion made.
I wasn't here 2 weeks ago, but it sounds like y'all passed two rules. So
No, we passed a resolution and a rule. Randy's was not a rule. Randy's resolution was not a rule. Randy's resolution was a resolution. And I specifically asked, did you want to make it a rule? And you said no. Did you not, Randy? So the only rule that was passed last week was with the rule with respect to discussion of Deer Run.
Did you have a question, Shane?
I don't have an issue.
Yeah, I would like the rule that was passed repeated specifically. What was the wording in the rule that was passed?
The only reason I'm asking, that's making a comment here, is that's not relevant. The guy has got an agenda item that he wants to change rules. Either we got to give him that opportunity.
How can you change a rule that doesn't exist?
Right.
Well,
the rule doesn't exist.
Okay, he says When I'm reading it right here, it says change the rule that restricts the council from rezoning properties in any council district of the parish.
They don't have a rule today. You can do it today. You could have put it on the agenda.
That's not the rule.
That's not the rule.
Read what happens. If 5 can't go on the agenda, then the rezoning cannot be rescinded or changed. If you can't discuss District 5 at a council meeting, then you can't rezone properties in that council district, which is what I said I want to change the rule about.
You can rezone in District 5.
I can't put District 5, I can't put any discussion.
You can't put Deer Run on the agenda.
That's exactly right.
I understand, but Deer Run's in District 5.
Gary,
No, Deer Run's in District 5.
Quit trying to throw smoke and mirrors at everybody and confuse everything.
Deer Run is in District 5.
Your agenda item is off point.
I don't believe it is.
Invalid.
I'm going to make a chairman's call here, and I'm going to say that this item is not valid to be on the agenda, so we're going to pass this one over. Item 24, board appointments, Mr. Gary Talbert, Gravity Drainage, District 2.
Yeah, I have 3 people that are expired as of right now. I want to reappoint 2 and make a change on the 3rd one. I want to reappoint Mr. Davis. I want to change Brian to, where's my, Sandy, you got the list? Not in my packet.
Is it possible to cut you off?
It's over there.
I got something to say about
everything,
this.
I believe. Oh, well, look.
I understand. Y'all passed that when there wasn't 9 people here. There are 9 people here today.
You was here.
I know.
And you the one that caused me to get my man reversed. And he was a good man, and he needed to be on there. So we decided that we were going to push this off and let the new council reappoint board members. That's what needs to happen this time. Why are you adding this back? You was the one that reversed my guy from my board.
You put yours through and then restricted mine. So I just said fair.
Exactly. So let's let the new council handle this.
We got 9 people here tonight. Let's vote differently.
Okay.
Go ahead. You got my items.
You know the name, Gary?
You don't have your name?
Yeah, I want to reappoint Brian Emmerich, and I'm going to replace Brian Clemens with
I couldn't remember last time.
I know. Y'all keep putting me under. I can't remember the deal.
Shane.
What?
Kevin Romeg. I want to put Kevin Romeg on.
Hey, you second this? Who second? Somebody second. Okay, you got a motion.
We got a motion by Mr. Talbert to replace Brian Clemens
with Kevin Romeg and reappoint Brian Emmerich and reappoint Jimmy Davis.
I don't know if you got a second or not.
I did.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, Mr. King.
All right, I want to make a substitute motion.
Well, hold on just a second. We got a substitute motion by Mr. Shane Mack.
Okay, my motion is to defer all board appointments, whether it's a reappointment or a replacement or a removal, until the new council takes over.
Motion by Mr. Maine, Shane Mack, second by Ms. Eric Sanderson. We have a motion, substitute motion in place. Any discussion?
Yeah, I would like to say.
Come on up. I believe this gentleman looks familiar. Give us your name and address, sir.
Brian Shavers, 10024 Lexington Drive. Gary, with all due respect, I mean, I have already worked with this guy before. I've been to plenty of drainage board meetings. This is one of the most knowledgeable guys on that board. And for you to remove him and put somebody that I don't even know, to me, that's disrespectful. That's very disrespectful. And like Randy DeLatte said.
Well, I'm gonna tell you my exact reasoning. I'll be glad to give you my reasoning.
I need to. I don't need
No.
to.
I mean, I'll be glad. So there is a project that would benefit Gravity 2 that requires an expropriation of land. The land is Mr. Clemens' land. Mr. Clemens doesn't feel like government should be able to come in and buy somebody's land, even if they don't want to sell it, for the benefit of the whole. And I'm gonna tell you what, when Beaver Creek starts flooding north of the diversion, you would understand why somebody that has no desire to let that happen doesn't need to be on a drainage board.
So you could say the same thing for Kevin Romig. I don't know Kevin Romig from Adam. I have no idea who he is.
Well, I understand.
But
And you know something? When you're the councilman, Next month, you can appoint whoever you want to whatever board there comes about. But right now, these people expire when I'm the councilman.
But you do realize that it makes it tricky for a new councilman to come in to find reason to pull those people off. And I have a question for the attorney. Do you have to have, can you pull anybody off of a board for any reason whatsoever? So you have to have probable cause, just cause to pull them off.
Just cause.
Yeah. So that goes back to that, Gary. You're appointing somebody for 4 years that I have no idea who they are.
Dude, you don't think that we all have dealt with that in the past?
Well, that's why Shane was saying roll it over.
Well, look, nobody rolled them over for me.
We discussed this 2 meetings ago.
I didn't see you get up here.
But still, I watched the meeting, Gary. You did the same thing 2 meetings ago.
I'm just telling you that I didn't have 9 votes 2 meetings ago. There weren't 9 people here. There are 9 people here. We're going to readdress this issue.
Well, I'm going to just say this, and Randy said it, and I'll say it too. What's the rush? What is the rush? And that's all I'm going to say.
Let's go ahead and get.
Oh, here we go.
Go ahead and get Brian real quick.
Mr. Talbot, I'd like to address your question of my impartiality.
Go ahead.
According to state law, which I'm required once a year to take a test, and I have done so every single year I've been on this board. If the matter comes up that concerns me directly, I'm required to recuse myself. And if you will check the records, I have taken those tests and passed those tests and have adhered to those tests. But I would like to point out that the project that you're pushing for right here specifically would benefit you. Because you are directly downstream of my property. Sir, it's my time.
Okay, go
reclaiming
ahead.
my time. You live directly downstream of Beaver Creek from me. And this project would impact you personally, directly. But I point out, I have taken the required ethics exams, and I have passed them. And if a vote comes up on that particular project, I rest assured, I would recuse myself. Thank you.
Let's go.
Raymond Wallace, 9350 Lockhart Road. It's amazing how all of a sudden that you want to remove a person that was appointed to a board knowing that he disagreed with you on that when you went to go take his land from him and treating him as a minion, somebody that didn't matter. Talk down to him. I don't think that that's what this council needs to represent with people that are double-minded. Because the word says that a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Okay? Personal vendettas or disagreements should not become a part of this council meeting, whether you appoint somebody or not. You made the decision to appoint him knowing you had a disagreement, and that was there. Now you want to backtrack and make that decision valid. You're attacking a good Christian, moral individual that has done nothing for your district up there but to hemp and do the best that has ever been done up there. More has been done up in that district in the several years he's been on there than anybody else. God bless you. I hope, according to your works, that you discover that the power invested in us in God speaks more than any volume you will ever speak. Thank you.
All right, we have a substitute motion by Mr. Mack to not make any board changes until the new council takes place. You want to call for the vote from Mr.
Do we have a second?
Oh, was there a second? Second by Ms. Aaron Sanders.
Did you have requests?
I did. Gee whiz, I don't know if I want.
You don't have to.
No.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Look, I agree with in principle. That's why I haven't changed any of my board members. Okay. But I also think Mr. Talbot should have the right to. Now, I don't think it's kind of a misnomer here. Mr. Talbert's not asking to remove him. His time is up on 11/8. What he's saying is don't put him back on. He's not actually removing him by the legal sense. Am I right?
No, he's replacing him for another 4-year term.
Yeah. Now, again, I wouldn't do that. I would leave that for me personally, I would leave that for Mr. Goff. okay? But I do respect Mr. Talbert's right to do so. So,
If I remember correctly, when Mr. Mack made the motion last time we put someone on there, you were adamant to undo his.
That's right.
And you supported that.
because I felt that Mr. Mack said right there, and
I was reappointing a guy that had been on there for years, that had done an outstanding job, who was about 90 years old, and enjoyed going to those meetings, and enjoyed the benefit of being a member of that board. He's done an outstanding job for years. We voted to reappoint him back. And you voted to remove him because we decided as a team that night that we were going to let the new council appoint board members.
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
Okay. I voted for you because you sat right there and made that point, which I was okay with, but then turned around and tried to deny Mr. Talbert his right to do the same thing.
That's because he was removing. I was replacing.
No,
you know what I'm saying? I was reappointing. He's replacing. I was reappointing a good man. He was replacing.
He wasn't removing someone. He was not reappointing them, and that's what I'm saying. There's
a new guy on the board. I was reappointing a guy.
But he was not removing him. Because I wouldn't have voted for it to remove him.
Call it what you want, but he was putting a new guy. To me, he was removing Brian.
There's a distinct difference there, Mr. Mack. There's a difference between saying, hey, you're in the middle of your term, you're gone, as opposed to, hey, your time is up. I'm not reappointing you. Now, there's a difference.
We rolled it over month to month. It's the same thing.
No, it's not. It's not the same. Have you ever removed somebody?
My guy had expired.
You don't have to have cause to remove somebody at the end of their term.
Exactly, and I didn't need just cause to remove anybody. My guy needed to be replaced. His term had expired. It's the same thing. His term's expired. He's trying to put a new guy on there. I wasn't trying to put a new guy on there. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing.
Let's do yours next.
No, I tell you what, let's go ahead and call for the vote, but I will say this. The people of this parish just went through an election and just spoke pretty clearly of who they want govern in this parish. And I think just to be vindictive and to be scorched earth and take everything down with you, and when you go out your last day of the meeting is just it's terrible. And so I think it's only right if Mr. Mack gave up a good appointment because he believed in the thing that the new council should make that decision. So I'm going to go ahead and just call for the vote for Shane Mack's motion to...
Seconded, right?
And Ms. Aaron Sanders for second. This will allow the new council to make the decisions. And a vote yes would allow the new council to appoint the board members that they feel are necessity.
But he said defer all board appointments until new council takes over.
To defer to the board appointments until the new council takes over.
All council.
Mr. Mack's motion. You want to call for the vote, please?
Yes. Mr. Keene?
No.
Mr. Talbert?
No.
Mr. Garlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. Delat?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Absolutely yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer?
Yes.
Mr. Ord?
Yes.
Mr. McMorris?
Yes. All right, that motion carries. Committee reports, 25. Finance Committee, Mr. Delat.
Guys, we had a finance meeting, but everything we spoke about, Ms. Jennifer came up and gave a presentation. We introduced the ordinance also. So
no action.
No action.
Ordinance Committee recommendations, Mr. Mack.
No, I think we covered everything tonight. We introduced everything that we have left to do. I don't think we're planning to have any more ordinance committee meetings this year. And I want to say that I've enjoyed being the ordinance committee chair and working with the people of Livingston Parish, receiving feedback and modifying the law. to
Mr. Cascio,
better
you
their
have a
quality of
comment?
life.
Let's just go home.
No report?
Wait. We've got
talked to
25B,
DB and
an
Randy.
introduction.
Oh, 20.
A recommendation for an introduction.
Working on that.
Hang on, B.
25B.
Yeah, 25B.
When did they have a committee meeting?
We had a finance meeting.
No, when did they have an ordinance committee?
Ordinance committee meeting hadn't met, have we?
We're not eating no more this year. It's over.
What is 25B?
You can trash it.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Ard, second by Ms. Sandifer. All in favor say yes?
Yes.
Any opposed? I declare this meeting adjourned.